Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, perhaps to those of you in places further away. Welcome to the July 21st, 2024 second quarter meeting of the Board of Directors for the Society for Creative Anachronism. As always, I am Mark Falcon. I'm the chairman of the board, and on behalf of the board, I'm very pleased to greet all of our attendees for the meeting. As we usually do, we'll start with a brief round of introductions for who's on the panel, and then we will get into the meeting. I'll start with Louise, since she's first on my list here.
Hi, I am Louise Ducre. I'm your Vice President for Corporate Operations out here in California. And I would also take this time to welcome our American Sign Language interpreters and remind everybody to speak slowly and clearly. Thanks so much, everyone.
Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Krochmal. I am the director in Seat C. This is my very last meeting. I will be stepping down at the end of this meeting. Mundanely, I live in the DC area, and yeah, welcome everyone.
Stacy?
Hi, my name is Stacy Hall. I am the emergency replacement deputy to the Society Seneschal, and I reside within the confines of the Kingdom of Meridies, the Barony of Iron Mountain, which is Birmingham, Alabama.
Megan?
Hello, I'm Megan O'Shea. I am the director in Seat B, the Ombudsman for Ansteora, Artemisia, and Meridies.
Jonathan?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Foster. I'm the director-elect for Seat C.
Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Schreier. I'm the Society Seneschal. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, in the Kingdom of Calontir.
Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Luther Fulton. I'm the executive assistant to the board in the SCA. I'm Cenk Valid of Englewood, and I live in the Kingdom of Glenavon.
Krista?
Good morning. My name is Krista Katz. I'm the director for Seat A, which makes me the ombudsman for Atlantia, Eldermere, Adenbelt, and the Mid-Realm. And mundanely, I live out in Central California in the West Kingdom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I'm KT Shepard. You'll hear folks call me Shep on occasion. I am the director for Seat F. I'm the ombudsman for Caid, Antir, the West, and the Marshlet. I reside in Huntsville, Alabama, in the wonderful Kingdom of Meridies.
Pug?
Good morning. My name's Pug Bainter. I live in Austin, Texas. I am director for Seat E, ombudsman for Ethelmark East, Primaris, and Glenavon, DEIB, and the Heralds. In the SCA, I'm Phelim Gervais in the Kingdom of Ansteora.
Gabrielle?
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Fisher. I am currently serving as the vice chair of the board, and I have Seat D. I am the ombudsman for Abacal, Locock, Drachenwald board recruiting, and I live in northeast of Toronto in the Kingdom of Eldermere.
Bonnie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Bonnie Stringer. I'm the Society Exchequer, and I reside in Glenavon.
Evan?
Morning. I'm Evan Kurtzman, in-house counsel for the SCA, and I reside in Southern California, playing Caid.
Val?
Hi, my name is Val Pham, and I'm the president of SCA, and I live in Ansteora.
Uni?
Hi, or good evening. I'm Unni-Leena. I'm the Society Herald. I live in Helsinki, Finland, which in the real world is in the Kingdom of Drachenwald.
Liz? Sarah?
Hello, I'm Sarah Noble McGee. I'm the Society Minister for Arts and Sciences. Mundanely, I live in North Carolina. In the Society, I'm Hildegard Bergerine and live in Atlantia.
Bridget?
Good morning, everyone. Bridget Costello, Communications, and I am coming to you from the Kingdom of Locock in Canberra, Australia.
Ellen?
Hi, I'm Ellen Rawson. I am the Complete Anachronist editor. I live in the Kingdom of Drachenwald in the Principality of Insular Draconis, and I live in southern England.
Travis?
Hello, I'm Travis Schenk. I am the SCA archivist. In the society, I am known as Ramon de Javier, and I'm coming to you from the archives in Southern Artemisia, also known as sunny Utah.
Nicholas?
I'm Nicholas Milano. I am the Society Web Minister. I currently reside in the Kingdom of Meridies in the wonderful barony of Iron Mountain, Birmingham, Alabama.
And Melissa?
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Midzer. I'm your Society Marshal, and I live near Denver, Colorado, in the wonderful Kingdom of the Outlands.
Excellent. I think I've gotten anybody. Did I miss anyone? Excellent. In that case, then I will direct my next statement / request to the directors and ask if anyone is ready to make a motion to begin the meeting. Vice Chair Fisher?
Mr. Chairman, I move we open the July 21st, 2024 meeting of the Board of Directors for the Society for Creative Anachronism.
A motion from Director Fisher, second from Director Capps, who is moving particularly quickly these days with the motions. Is there any discussion on this motion? In that case, we'll move to the voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? There being none, that motion passes and the meeting is open. I would now entertain any motions to accept the agenda and perhaps take items out of order, if you're so minded. Director Fisher?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the agenda as presented and take agenda items out of order as may be necessary.
Motion from Director Fisher, second from Shep. Is there any discussion on this motion? There being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? There being none, that motion passes and we have accepted the agenda as presented. That will bring us to item 2, Leslie.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to present the April 14th, 2024 quarterly meeting minutes, the May 2nd, 2024 special meeting minutes, the May 9th, 2024 special meeting minutes, the May 30th, 2024 conference call minutes, the May 5th, 2024 special meeting minutes, and the July 1st, 2024 special meeting minutes for your approval.
Thank you, Leslie. I will note for the audience that these minutes were circulated to the directors and corporate officers ahead of time. We've all had a chance to review them in advance. With that, I will open the floor to any questions, comments, or discussion regarding the minutes as presented. I see thumbs up from Shep. Okay. There being no further, appearing to be no further questions or comments, I would entertain a motion from any of the directors to accept the minutes as presented.
You've done it by consensus in the past.
So I have, excuse me. By consensus and without objection, these minutes are accepted. Gratefully, I might add. Thank you, Leslie. Moving to item 3, recurring business, 3A, Liz.
Okay, status changes, Mr. Chairman. I am happy to report that there are no dissolutions of groups reported to me this quarter by the Kingdom Seneschals. I'm told there may be a couple that will happen eventually, but they haven't yet. I do have a couple of new branches for the board to take note of. By way of explanation to anyone in the audience who doesn't know, new branches, brand new branches, new shires, etc., start existing at the point that the kingdom announces them in a court. However, the board then recognizes them at the next quarterly meeting so that we have a record in the minutes, and that's what I'll be doing here. First of all, I'm delighted to report that my own kingdom of Calontir has a new official shire, the Shire of Villa Frumentaria, which covers several counties in northwestern Iowa. It was recognized by the Crown and Kingdom Seneschal as a full status shire in court on May 18th, 2024. I ask that the board take note of this new official branch, welcome them to the STA family. Unfortunately, they were hit by flooding this spring pretty hard too, and there have been some people in the kingdom who have tried to help them out with things they needed. I believe it was less the shire itself and more of the area that they've been trying to work with people, which would be, is a good thing too. And I'm also delighted to report to the board that the Kingdom of Trimeris has a new official canton, the Canton of Brimstream, which is a canton of the barony of Encreuser in northern Florida, was declared official by the kingdom in court on April 6, 2024. And I would ask that the board officially take note of both those groups as being official branches.
Are there any questions for the Society Seneschal regarding the group changes? And by consensus and without objection, the board takes note of these changes in status. And particularly that there were no dissolutions, which is always good to hear. That will bring us to item 3B. Are there any changes that require board action, Liz? Status changes requiring board action?
No, Mr. Chairman, that would have been dissolutions or any groups that were advancing to barony or changing laterally, and there are none of those.
Excellent. That will bring us to 3C, the quarterly meeting schedule. Louise?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have currently one more quarterly meeting on the books for 2024, and that is scheduled for the weekend of October 20th. It is tentatively virtual, but I know there's been some discussion. If we're going in time order, our next conference call is scheduled for Monday, August 26th, and the one for September is Monday, September 23rd.
Excellent. Is there any discussion of the establishment of conference calls and the meetings as presented by the Vice President for Corporate Operations? Shep, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I apologize, Mr. Chairman. We wanted at yesterday's planning session, I brought forth a proposal for a possible in-person meeting in Denver for the October 2024 meeting. I think this is something that can be done on a reasonable budget, and I would like to see us move forward with the planning of that if I can get all of the costs in at an acceptable rate.
Is there any discussion on the request raised by Director Shepherd? I'll recognize myself and note that while we have saved a lot of money and it has become our standard practice to use virtual meetings, the simple fact is history, both far and recent, has demonstrated that we get far more done far more efficiently with in-person meetings. We still are loath to do so regularly while we are still very much cognizant of our financial position and shepherding the SCA's money appropriately. Nonetheless, I think for me personally, I would say that having another in-person meeting, this would be the first of this year, I think would be appropriate given our current trending from a budgetary perspective, and would give us the opportunity to not only meet our duties to the society, but to accelerate some of the things that we're trying to do to help enhance the experience for the membership and get some additional things done. Without objection and by consensus, then I would direct Director Shepherd to continue with his investigation and perhaps report back between now and the August conference call. So ordered. Returning to the conference call and meeting schedule as presented by the Vice President for Corporate Operations. Without objection and by consensus, the board will accept the conference call scheduling as presented. And so ordered. Louise, I think that would bring us to item 3D for bank account authorizations.
Yes, and over the last quarter, as I've mentioned, we did have some setbacks due to Wells Fargo and our corporate banking. So bank authorizations were going slower than we like, but we have solved those problems. They primarily affected Artemisia, so thank you so much to all of the exchequers in Artemisia for your patience and persistence, but bank authorizations are now functioning normally and we are getting caught up as fast as possible, largely due to our society exchequer and society treasurer, Bonnie and Carolyn, putting together a new process. So if you have a bank authorization request, we have it and we're working on them as fast as we can.
Louise, is there any steps that we can take as a corporation or as a board to facilitate any of the difficulties that you've been having with the bank authorizations?
Unfortunately not. These were internal Wells Fargo issues that went back as far as 2015. And they weren't actually found out about until a banker in Montana noticed it. It was all corporate level stuff that we had to just kind of slog through. But it is all well now and has been fixed.
Excellent.
As I think Carolyn mentioned recently that they weren't even listening to her and she's our society treasurer. But stubbornness and professionalism won the day on our side, not for Wells Fargo's, I will say, recorded in this public meeting. Thanks, Wells Fargo. But we're great. All is well now. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And speaking for me personally, I'll extend my gratitude and commendation for handling this quickly and professionally to keep things moving for our local chapters and organizations.
Thank you, and thanks on it. Carolyn and Bonnie did a lot of it too. So thank you.
Thank you. Item 3E, this would be warrants. Leslie?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I have warrants that will go out after this meeting for approval for Pelican Queen of Arms. And I'll let Uni, when it's her term, and introduce her new deputy in that. And we will be getting with Bridget, so an introduction can be done online as well. And then the Society Webmasters warrant was extended, and so that will be going out as well after this meeting. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Leslie. This will bring us to item 3F, ongoing projects. We'll start with number 1 under that for board recruiting. Gabe?
Hi, I'm happy to let folks know we currently have 46 nominees on the Board of Directors nominee list. We, of course, would love to have more. We would love to have a much broader representation of the organization represented by that list. Since we have, well over 20,000 membership, it would be nice to have that number increase. But of that membership, we represent 15 out of the 20 kingdoms. We welcome the membership to provide any commentary on anybody on that list, and folks can nominate themselves or anyone else who they feel might serve the society in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To kind of extend that, that would bring us to item 2 under 3F for board representation. Leslie, I'm hopeful that you have some statistics that we can quote at this time.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what statistics you're referring to.
I think you generally are listing nominees from kingdoms, etc.
Oh, okay.
I can give you a breakdown if you like. I have it right here.
Yeah, that should probably be Gabe's.
Oh, okay. I just listed you on the agenda, so.
We have the following number of nominees from the following kingdoms: 7 in Glenavon, 3 from Æthelmark, 2 from East, 4 from Callantyre, 4 from the Mid, 6 from Antir, 5 from Atlantia, 1 from Artemisia, 1 from Meridies, 4 from Trimaris, 4 from Avakal, 1 from Caid, 1 from Locock, 2 from the Outlands, and 1 from Caid.
Excellent.
So 2 from Caid, because I said Caid twice.
To our attendees and those who may view the video of this meeting later, while we are ecstatic, quite frankly, to have so many nominees on the list, please do not take that to mean that we couldn't use more qualified nominees for the board. We are an eclectic cross section of the SCA, representing many different demographics and constituencies within the SCA. And mundanely, we have a very wide skill set. All of those things are on purpose so that we can bring the maximum amount of knowledge, both professionally and within the SCA, to bear on the problems and situations that the SCA faces. So we are always looking for more qualified nominees who can enhance our ability to draw on a wealth of different experiences, both within the SCA and mundanely, to help us represent the organization and continue to foster it and push it forward as we go into the future. So if either you yourself or someone you feel it would be qualified to help lead the organization in this way, we highly encourage you to nominate that person, either yourself or someone you know. That would bring us to item 4, old business. The first under that would be 4A, variances granted by the Society Central. Liz?
Mr. Chairman, there are none that the board has not already approved this quarter. I did have one that was approved at the June conference call involving a site/event change for the Principality of Insula Draconis, who had an event site pulled from them through no fault of their own and had to scramble to put together the Principality Court they had planned, but the board already approved that one, and I didn't have any new ones since then.
Excellent. In that case, this will bring us to item 4B, the East Kingdom Alternative Crown. We'll start with the report from Director Bainter and then move into the experiment itself.
I would recommend that we take something out of order at this time. President Balfam has to travel today, and we had discussed moving his report up in the meeting so that is not a.
Without objection and by consensus, we will take items out of order and move to the president's report. So ordered.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we should talk about the Patreon membership. There was a change. The board agreed to pass this Patreon membership, and it requires a change to our corporate policies, section 1B. It would add a number 6, patron membership conveys all privileges of 1B1 along with additional privileges as designated by the SCA. 1B1 is just a sustaining membership. And then for my report, we have a new peerage that's in the works, but Uni will cover that a little bit more. For the Patreon membership, going back to that, there are several reasons why we agreed to this. There are several ways to support the SCA, and most of that is through volunteer work, but there are other ways to support the SCA, and we thought the Patreon membership would be a good way to do that. There are some perks associated with this, such as digital content, merchandise, and acknowledgement by the SCA for your support. For my office itself, I am looking for more deputies. I would like to build out this office and some of the things that the SCA does on a corporate level a little bit more. So I would like to, working with Bridget, I would like to add a little bit more people to communications to help facilitate more transparency and increase educational awareness about how the corporate level operates with procedures, processes, and how and give a little bit more guidance for the officers in terms of like SOPs and things like that to help make it more accessible. So there are a lot of changes on the corporate side of the organization that we're working on. We're trying to make things a little bit more accessible so that people can, join and volunteer and offer to help the organization, and that there will be a support system in place for them to succeed. And that is what I am working on currently in the president's office.
Thank you very much, Val. As a point of clarification, your report, if I'm reading it correctly, there are currently no requests for board action. I take that to mean that while you're working on those things and whatnot, that you do not yet have anything ready to present to the board for their review. Is that correct?
Not yet. I've only had about a month and a half to try to start putting some things together. They're not yet in a place to present to the board for actions for approval. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you. Open the floor to the directors if there are any questions or comments regarding the report of the society president. There being none, then by consensus and without objection, the report of the society president is gratefully accepted. Bao, we understand that you have to travel today, such that when the time comes where you need to do that, please let us know in the chat so that we know. But otherwise, please feel free to do so as is dictated by your schedule. Without objection, we'll return to item 4B under old business for the East Kingdom Crown variance.
Thank you. These two items, as they are on the agenda, will probably get a little blurred together as it's hard to talk about one without the other. The East Kingdom has been working on a experiment request to hold alternate crown tournament by Rapier Combat. I've been meeting with the East Kingdom Seneschal and their deputy recently on a weekly basis to make sure that this is continued to move forward. The board, one of the things we specified was more clear guidance on what we wanted in the packet for this, as well as a board directed survey via Neon, our membership portal. Both of those circumstances have happened. We have closed the survey out. We had a very high expectation of 20% of membership to reply. I am thankful to say that the East Kingdom well exceeded that number, and we are happy to have seen the communication get out to enough people that they met that in the time period that the survey occurred. I'm not sure what else to talk about before we go into discussion on the actual experiment request and discussion of it. Are there other items that the board members would like to hear?
With regard to the report?
Yes.
The floor is open for questions or comments regarding the report on the work for the East Kingdom experiment. Before we talk about the experiment itself, Pug, please proceed.
All right. The East Kingdom has put together a package for an experiment request. As I mentioned earlier, they have outlined the meetings that they took with who. They outlined the types of survey that they did with Google Forms and the response rates they got with that. They provided us an analysis of it as well as the raw material scrubbed for the participants' sake. And they have made a request that they be allowed to hold an experiment to have Crown Royal List, in particular their Crown Tournament selection by Rapier Combat. I think that's all I got until people have questions or want to. That really is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing.
Okay. The floor is open for questions or comments regarding the experiment itself. I'll actually start with recognizing myself and saying, first, I will commend the East Kingdom for their hard work on this. Both the Crown and officers, as well as the populace. We set I think necessary, but relatively high bar in terms of a response rate for the survey to make sure that we had enough people responding to get a good understanding of the will of the East and its populace. And at 20%, and the East exceeded that. So I think that certainly it provides us with a large enough basis of response from the populace of the East to be able to rely on the information and use it for consideration, drawing conclusions. So I commend the East at every level for the work that they've put into investigating this and ultimately submitting for the experiment. That said, speaking for me personally, I have grave concerns. And this ultimately is less about the format, Rapier or et cetera, and more about what it means for our organization. What is being asked for speaks directly to our brand, if I may use that term. It speaks directly to who we are as an organization, how we all got here, and how we will proceed from here. To be candid, this is not the sort of thing that we or any board can get wrong. So I have grave concerns. Again, speaking for me personally, it's been clear from the commentary that while there are a lot of people who are in favor of this, there's also a lot of people who have significant reservations about pursuing a rapier crown. I've heard it described in the comments as the analogy used was it seems like we've been playing basketball, if you will, for 50 years, and now folks are coming and saying, "Hey, this is a great basketball game. Now we should play softball." Despite the fact that we, our brand, if you will, is as a basketball league. If I can, take that analogy probably further than I should, but it does illustrate that it speaks directly to our identity as an organization, our history, and how we got here. Which is not to say that we should not consider it, but I think we need to exercise extreme care with when and if and how we pursue an experiment like this, because as I said, this is not something that is small. I understand that the people who are asking for it and advocating for it, I think understand that, but I'm not, even granting that, I'm not convinced that the people who are asking for this understand perhaps exactly how big it is from the standpoint of the organization as a whole. And this cannot be gotten wrong if we pursue it. And so for me personally, I still very much have some grave and significant concerns about whether or not we should proceed with this and how we do so. So apologies for pontificating from the chair, if you will, but I think that was very important to say. And I'll open the floor to any other questions, comments, or concerns from the directors and officers. Pug?
The concern with our brand is a very legitimate one, because if it changes too much, we could have an issue with it being watered down and people being uncertain what they're participating in. That said, over the 50 some odd years that we've been a corporation, because I can't quite do math to tell how many 50, we have changed the brand slightly over time. We've expanded it to include other activities such as fencing in the distant past, and more recently to open up the overall scope of the scope of what we do to not just be Western centric. We've made it more global in nature, and even have opened it up to oral tradition, which can make it a challenge for some of the people either trying to evaluate that if it's a name or device submission or an ANS submission for this. These are things that have changed over time, and how we've potentially removed certain factors from our organization through revocation and denials of membership. We will continue to grow. I think personally, I am a crossover fighter. I do fight armored combat. I do fight fencing. I have awards in both of those, including the peerage for fencing. I am not certain that some of the people are going to get the results from this that they're wanting. There is, when you get to a certain level of competitive fighting, that the skill sets transition very well from armored combat to fencing, but not necessarily the other direction. And that is something that people need to be aware of while they're watching this experiment if it goes forward. To realize that it could be the same people winning Crown Tournament that won Crown Tournament previously. And I think from there I will yield to others.
Thank you, Pug. Megan?
Thank you. One of the things that I always think of when I think about brand changing and just changing in organizations at a higher level is that one of the things that we have to recognize is our fiduciary duty. And I can't help but think about the importance of shifting when there's enough of a call for it. Do I know that for sure that there is that? I can't say that, forever, no. But I do know that, right now the feedback we've received has been that, a good amount of folks do want this, that they at least want to try it. Does every experiment stay around forever? No. Yesterday I made an analogy to Clear Pepsi. Clear Pepsi was a thing. It was great. Some people loved it. Some people hated it, but Pepsi is still around. And I think that this is an experiment that we as the SEA can certainly weather. I yield.
Thank you, Megan. Shep?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I totally get we have as directors, we have a duty to our membership. We have duty to our organization to protect it. We have duty to our brand. But we have to consider all things, whether we like them or not, whether my personal opinion is I really don't like this or I really love this. I have to look at it from the point of view of what our membership wants, from what I believe outside of my personal opinion is best for business, is best for is best for the corporation. And one of those things is occasionally trying new things, even when you don't like them. I don't like sushi, can't stand it. I think people who tell me all the time that sushi is amazing and why don't you like it are a little snobbish. David Tennant has a great thing on it. Go look it up on YouTube. It's fantastic. But the point is, every once in a while, I try sushi because my tastes change. The way we look at things change. And this request for an experiment, and let's be clear, I look at this as an experiment. I think bears the. I think it's gained enough momentum that it bears serious consideration. But let's be clear, I look at this as a one-time experiment, something that if we were to go forward with this, and I'm saying if, not when, if we were to go forward with this, we would have to do this slowly and super, super carefully. Because this can, even though we look at it as a one-time thing, this can have repercussions on our brand down the road, and we need to know what those are. So if we're going to go forward with this, it needs to be studied after as well. If we were to do this, it would need to be studied after, and I would not personally consider anything else until after we have both done it and studied it. And if that means a committee somewhere down the line, Lord knows I hate a committee, but if that means a committee somewhere down the line, then that may be something we need to look at. But I share your concerns, Mark, on a personal level and on a professional level, both portions. And I also want to hold up my green card and agree with Pug that I I firmly believe that this may have some unintended consequences that people who are pushing for it don't fully grasp. But that, once again, unintended consequences. That's why you study experiments after they're completed. So I'll yield for now.
To clarify, Shep, I think what you're saying, and I'm asking, not stating, but I think what I'm hearing you advocate for is that if we proceed with this, that we make clear that this is a one-off experiment, and that we have some healthy period of time that we can examine the results of the experiment to see whether the net effect was positive for the organization or not, and whether or not we want to continue it, and if so, in what capacity. Am I interpreting that correctly?
What you said, only you said it better.
Shep, if you're relying on me for wordsmithing, we're in serious trouble.
We got there.
Fair enough. Gabrielle?
I share some of your significant concerns, Mark, especially on how this can ripple out to other kingdoms, because not all kingdoms have the same composition of participants in the very activities as the kingdom that is seeking the experiment. So I think that's something that I'm mindful of, and I don't know about my fellow directors, but that's one of my concerns that I have, is the bigger picture and how the ripples can affect society as a whole. I yield.
Other questions, other comments, other considerations? Shep?
Sorry to chime back in after speaking so closely, but I after reading through again the East Kingdom request, I have some concerns with how it's written, but my main concerns. Sorry, I'm losing my track here for a second. It's come back to me. I apologize.
Okay. Pug?
As this has come up in the question and answers multiple times, I want to touch base briefly on it. There was a miscommunication, I think, between board members with regards to what one of the statements on the announcement meant. When we talked about releasing the survey results, it was not necessarily meant that we would release all the details of that. I can say at high level, we well exceeded the target goal for membership. We had a higher percentage of members than non-members, and it was generally favorable. And I don't think that we may get more detailed than that without further addressing that internally before we would release any information, because it wasn't necessarily agreed by the collective of what the statement meant, and there was the English language is imprecise, and so people read into it different things. And I yield.
Shep, did it come back to you, or do we proceed? Okay. Still not entirely comfortable, if I'm honest. Still have some concerns, but I do want to turn our attention, working from the assumption that, if we were to proceed with such an experiment, let's talk about guardrails for a minute. Previously, we had a few minutes ago, Shep raised the question or raised the point that if we do proceed with it, that we should do so as a one-off experiment, and that we take some time to evaluate the results of that experiment, potentially before we figure out how to proceed either with the East or with any other kingdom. And that seems like a reasonable guardrail to me, given the potential brand impact and what it means for the organization. Again, predicated in the assumption that we proceed in the first place. We're not voting and whatnot, but just taking the temperature of the directors and whatnot, does that seem like a reasonable guardrail that we would want to apply to such an experiment if we were to proceed with it? Turning to the potential format, I know that this has been discussed, I think, a couple of occasions, with regard to rapier combat, and I'd like to be fairly specific about that. I hope I'm getting this right, and I'm sure one of you will correct me if I'm wrong, but loosely rapier combat, I think could be, the blanket term rapier combat, let me say, could be broken down into three categories: the so-called light rapiers, epées, etc. What I'll call traditional rapier, and then the cut and thrust. That naturally brings me to the question of, is the format in terms of what specifically would be allowed or not another guardrail that we feel is important for this experiment if we proceed with it? Pug?
I think it is very important. The marshalate has very nicely reformatted the fencing marshal's handbook to not cause confusion with rapier, the terminology. And rapier does mean that what some people used to call heavy rapier, but it is by far the most popular form across the society and the most authorized form across the society, excepting one kingdom, but I'm talking as a society as a whole, not necessarily by kingdom. I think it is critical that we be specific, that it be rapier combat as defined in the Fencing Marshal's Handbook, and not the umbrella fencing category, which includes the others that you discussed. And I yield.
Understood. Anything else on the format before I move on to something else? Go ahead, Pug.
So we did have a discussion on this yesterday during executive session. There were some people that raised some concerns, a portion of the proposal and with regards to the tournament itself. I couldn't remember who did, so thank you, Shep, for stepping forward.
Thanks, Pug. That was me. So if we're to look at this going forward, and I'm the last person you want to take any power away from a crown, but it would be under such a microscope that anything that looks a little strange could cause problems. And just looking through the East Kingdom's proposal, they laid out very well what their normal crown list looks like, which makes perfect sense until you get to the end, where sometimes, not always, the crown can specify what weapon sets are going to be used for what round. Given that you may have people who I'm not completely aware of what the authorization for heavy is in the East, but I know most kingdoms' authorization for fencing is each weapon style has its own authorization. Given that restriction, I would not like to see, were we to do this, something where the crown can influence the finals of a tournament, knowing X, Y, or Z. Not that they would, but I'm talking about appearances. That competitor X or Y is weak in a weapon style and has to fight in that specifically. I don't think that anyone would, but I'm worried about appearances of impropriety on any level, a purely appearance standpoint, which means that any type of weapons, I would think that any type of constraint on that tournament would need to be ironed out well ahead of time and announced well ahead of time. If you're going to run the best of X for the finals, alternate weapon styles, everyone should know what round that's going to be or what that is ahead of time, just like whatever the full format will be ahead of time, because I don't want there to be any confusion on that. This brings me to another concern. I know I'm jumping from one to another, but when I read through and I mentioned this yesterday, and I'm going to mention it again, and I was going to mention earlier, I hesitated because I didn't want to call out the East on anything, but I have some concerns with their crown list requirements and meeting the requirements for corpora in those. And I would encourage them their Kingdom Seneschal to work with the Society Seneschal to make sure that everything is on the on the nose, and there can be no doubt about their requirements in that. Because if we do this, it will be under such a microscope. And those are my concerns with and you can ask anyone on the board. I hammer on policy and making sure we're on the nose on things all the time, and that's my concern here. That, and since I have the mic, I'm going to use it for a second. I know that this conversation's been going on for a long time, but if it's something that I'm going to get behind, I firmly believe that anyone who's going to participate should have a reasonable time from the time it's announced to prepare, because you're going to have a lot of people crossing over who've never crossed over before. I believe you'll have a lot of folks who are new to the fencing community. I'm pretty sure the East will have a spike in their East Kingdom rapier authorizations. And I would like for them to have as much time as reasonably possible. So I wouldn't like to see it before 2025, because their next crown list is in October. And that would only give them 3 months to prepare, which I know if I pick up a new weapon style, it takes me more than three months to become even overly familiar with it. I yield.
Let me, for purposes of discussion, let me take those things one at a time. Speaking to the format, I think if memory serves, your concern was around making sure that the details of the format of the tournament and the finals in particular were published ahead of time. To make sure I'm on the same page, because I too am not in a hurry to tie the hands of the crown. I think I am interpreting what you said to mean that as would be the right of any crown in the SCA, they would be able to stipulate the weapons restrictions, et cetera, that would be acceptable for the tournament. But that in the context of this experiment, our ask would be that those things were established in advance and not decided on the day. And in particular, I know it has been the practice in some kingdoms that the format for the finals is not announced until the finals themselves. I think for this particular one, if I'm understanding your ask correctly, that not be done this time, and that the format for everything be publicized in advance. Is that an accurate representation of what you're asking for?
Almost.
Almost. What I missed?
Almost. You're spot on about the format. When it comes to weapons restrictions, don't really think. I think pretty much everything in rapier should be open in this. You want this to be open to the most amount of people in that activity. If you limit that, I mean, and I'm one of 7, but if you limit that, I have concerns over whether you're getting a full accounting of that community. Normally speaking, most normal heavy combat hand combat tournaments are open weapon style. Occasionally you have one that's not shieldless. Occasionally you have one that's thrusting. Occasionally you have one that has different, but your basic one. And I think this experiment, if we do this experiment, should be very basic. Should be very simple and straightforward. But that's just my opinion on that one. But I'm absolutely with you. I'm absolutely with you on anything that's going to be done needs to be announced well ahead of time. A lot of times crowns don't announce their formats until a month before the tournament. I think this needs to be months before the tournament. Not just it'll be rapier, but this will be the format months before the tournament.
Assuming that we proceed with it in the first place.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions or whatnot for that particular questions, comments, et cetera, regarding format? Otherwise, I'll recognize myself again. Okay. I hear what you're saying, Shep. I still, I'm I'm loath to limit what has been a traditional and power of the crown, et cetera. And, you know, without the flexibility to do that, you know, it's been a long time since I lived in the East Kingdom. I'm not privy to some of the details of their rapier and experiments and whatnot, but like for this, for example, I don't know that I would want to see them using the pike rules and whatnot, which I think are still experimental in most places and whatnot, for example, and things like that. And without us, I mean, I don't think it's the role of the board to get down in the details of how the East conducts itself with its crown, but I do think it's reasonable for the experiment for us to work with the East to try to put some guardrails on it and whatnot. But there are precisely that kind of thing where I think that the ability that the crown needs to have the ability to set some guardrails for things exactly like that. Otherwise, those things are in the rules, and if that experiment is running in the East, then that would be you know, on point, and I don't know that we want to do that.
So I'm looking at this from an experiment point of view more than an SCA point of view, and perhaps I shouldn't. But when you run an experiment, you run a baseline. You want a base of everything. So your standard as you can get is what you're after. So when I look at this as an experiment, I think, you know, if the roles were reversed and you were running a heavy tournament for the first time as a crown, you would want the basis of your tournament to be open weapon style, so that you get the best cross section of that kingdom or that tournament's weapon styles. Generally speaking, we don't allow any kind of experimental weapons in crown lists. I don't know about the East specifically, but that's always been my general understanding is experimental weapons are for experimental situations, and we always announce ahead of time that experimental weapons are on the field. So that's neither here nor there, but I'm talking about looking at this as an experiment. So that's my basis for, I want this as generic as possible, because I want to see this from the least odd impact that it can be, so that I get the most data out of it. That's my take on it. Maybe I'm getting there the wrong way, and if I am, I apologize, but that's my concern.
I mean, let me ask this question then. Is it necessary, in your view, to reflect that in any particular language that would go into a motion, or is that something that we can work with the East on to share our concerns and our goals for the experiment, and work with the Crown to make sure that things are done the way that will produce what the outcomes from a data and whatnot perspective that we're looking for?
I think as long as that's understood that you know, we're going to have to work with this, then I think we're fine. I don't think it needs to go specifically in the motion. It's more of a spirit of the thing to me. As long as we understand it's, you know, it's an experiment, and this is not going to be a normal situation, basically.
Megan?
Thank you for recognizing me. One of the things I just wanted to address is with regards to the idea of a brand being tied to rattan combat. While I will recognize that, you know, we started off with a tournament hitting people with sticks to crown someone the queen, I think that we've come a long way since then, and we are an educational organization. I don't necessarily agree that the entirety of our brand is based on rattan combat. I also just want to put out there that I think that, you know, I think it's great that people are putting a lot of thought into finding the best ways to add scaffolding to ensure that if this experiment moves forward, that it does so successfully. And I also think it's important to recognize the work that the people of the East Kingdom have put into also trying to make sure that they put out an idea for an experiment that will go successfully. I'm okay with trusting them and some of the work that they've put forward, and their ongoing communication with their ombudsman to make sure that we can negotiate the right path forward. I don't necessarily think that we need to add all of the structure to the motions. I I think it's okay to let them have some autonomy with this experiment. With that, I yield.
Gabe?
I might be slightly different in my point than Megan in that I want to trust everybody's autonomy, but I think that this is such a large potential experiment that I think any tournament needs to be subject to some sort of oversight, and that any motion that might be made, not saying whether I'm for or against, should perhaps express that kind of language. That's my personal view, and mileage may vary. I yield.
Pug, go ahead.
I agree that we need to have this ran as an experiment and make sure we gather data that future boards, which may or may not include some of the people on this call, would be evaluating the success or results of the entire process. I'm not sure I'm on the same page with Director Shepherd with regards to limiting it as far as the potentially the October Crown Tournament. The Kingdom, at this point, I think anyone who is not aware that this is a potential and would have a stake in being a Crown contender would know that they needed to have already been authorized by this point. There's been plenty of time. They may not be up to speed yet, but they should have at least been authorized. Not to mention a lot of them get authorized for Penzic. There are a fair number of crossover fighters from the armored field to the fencing field. We did discuss that at a previous meeting and with the Crown of the East, and I'm more of the opinion that if we can work out some of the guardrails that are being discussed here between the appropriate officers, the ombudsperson, and the Crown, that we allow it to go forward as early as October. And that's just my stance on that topic. And I will yield.
Shep?
Director Boehner, I completely get that some people should have been ready for this, but I fail to see how everyone could have thought that this was an actual possibility. Some of us didn't think this was an actual possibility. So if the whole of your being is tied up in, I didn't expect this to be a possibility. If this happens, it's unreasonable to expect them to be ready. Now, was that a lack of foresight on their side? Maybe, possibly, but I can't plan around those who had a good crystal ball versus those who didn't. I have to base my personal opinion on what I think is reasonable to the membership that may not have expected it as a baseline. And as if this came out of the blue, because there's a large portion of the East of any kingdom who really doesn't pay attention to social media. They don't pay attention. They just go to events and they have fun and they have a good time. And they're like, what? That's a thing. One of my squires the other day was like, is this actually a thing that you guys are talking about? Yes, it is. Not our kingdom. So it wasn't something they considered, but yes, that's, and I have to look for that as the baseline of our organization, so that when this gets announced, when this gets public, if we do this, that everyone has a chance to move forward from the same baseline. That's my concern.
Assuming we proceed with it in the first place.
Right.
Which is not a done deal. Megan?
Thank you again for recognizing me, Mr. Chair. I think that we just had a survey and we had a pretty high benchmark of how many, what percentage we were asking of the populace to respond. I think it's safe to say we know at least 20% of the East Kingdom was well aware that this was being discussed, if nothing else. I think it's reasonable to say that this has not been a surprise to the people in the East Kingdom. This has been being discussed for quite a while. And I do think that there is still enough lead time where people could theoretically prepare themselves. With that, I yield.
Other commentary on the format or on the timing before we address the other point that Shep raised? Shep, to make sure I'm on the same page, I think the other point that you had raised was regarding Crown list requirements.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Some of them don't match up with Corpora, and I want to make sure that that's fixed before we get there.
Okay.
I can call them out if you want, but I'd really rather not go through
Our
each Kim
normal
law.
mechanism for doing that kind of thing would be to direct the Society Seneschal perhaps, and as well as the ombudsperson for the East to reach out to them with any concerns that we have. Is that sufficient in your view?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see where this goes. Well, step back. By consensus and without objection, Shep, if you can point out the things that you are concerned about to the Society Seneschal, but by consensus and without objection, we could ask the Society Seneschal to work with the ombudsperson for the East and with the East Kingdom to address any concerns that you raised.
I can do that. I'd rather do that in an email than call each line out.
No,
Okay.
without objection from the other directors, I think that we could do regardless of where we go with this other thing.
Yep.
Okay, so order. Chef, did that, at this point, have we talked through all of the things that you had raised? I'll put this to the other directors then, or the officers. Are there any other guardrail related items or concerns that perhaps one or more of the directors would potentially want to see addressed as part of anything we do to proceed with this? Pug?
I think we've talked around this topic. I'm not sure if we've talked directly to it. An experiment of this size and magnitude is fairly significant, and we need to make sure that we gather good data from it. Based off that, I think that we probably should not have other experiments at the same time going on until we at least have the results from the first experiment, should this get approved. And that's a big commitment, but I think it is reasonable given the potential future ramifications of other experiments and, depending on how they go, potential changes to our governing documents in the fullness of time.
Yeah.
And I yield.
I see some nods with that. Does anybody disagree with the notion that we should perhaps curtail other experiments while this one is ongoing until we've had a chance to see it, if it proceeds and view the results? I see nods. Okay. Other questions, comments, concerns, other guardrail related items that we might potentially want to address? Okay. In that case, then I think we return to the central question. I mean, the East has made their presentation. We've seen the results from surveying the membership and non-membership participants in the East. How do we want to proceed? Should we proceed with this or not? And if so, under what circumstances? Pug?
I am willing to put forth a motion if we think it is an appropriate time to do so.
Okay.
And this may happen as two separate motions, depending on the outcome of the first one, based off our discussion we just had with Director Shepherd.
Okay. Going once before. Okay, Pug, the floor is yours.
All right. I move that we allow the East Kingdom to conduct a one-time experiment to hold a rapier list via fencing, rapier combat, and that the tournament be conducted before July 21st, 2026. So that is, to clarify, that is saying that they could do it as early as October, but no later than July 21st, depending on how their kingdom law gets changed.
Okay. The motion from Director Bainter, is there a second? See a second from Director O'Shea.
I have a friendly amendment.
Okay.
Gabe?
What is that?
You meant a one-time hold a royal list via fencing.
Is that not what I said?
No, you said to
Oh.
hold a rapier.
Oh.
You said twice.
Sorry. Yes, I accept that friendly amendment that it is to hold a royal list. Yes.
Okay. Discussion on this motion. Jennifer?
I have another potential friendly amendment to take Shep's concerns into consideration. That the tournament be conducted between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2026.
Essentially, if I may characterize, that would take Shep's consideration into account to give enough time, the side effect of which would mean that the earliest that could happen would be the spring crown for the East. Am I understanding your friendly amendment correctly?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I have to say for myself, I kind of agree with Shep. I mean, given the magnitude of the change, and knowing the amount of prep work and training that goes into a crown and whatnot, I kind of agree that having a significant amount of lead time is probably called for. Shep?
So, just a quick idea of how I got to this. If I'm prepping for crown list, and this is the way I looked at it. I've been fighting for 25 years. If my crown had decided that fall crown list in Meridies was going to be single-handed weapons thrust only, how much time would it take me to get ready for that? That's without learning all new equipment. That's without learning all of the things that go with learning just a style that I'm not familiar with. And 3 months would not be enough. And 3 months is usually, 2 to 3 months is usually how far ahead of time we know what the format for crown list is going to be. I would be in a world of hurt if that was the situation. And then I looked at this from the perspective that 4 months ago, I didn't expect us to be at this point in this conversation. And would it have been reasonable for me, if that had been a possible portion of that conversation, would it have been reasonable for me to be prepared 4 months ahead of time? And it wasn't. So that's how I got to this. And I don't mean to hold anything, for lack of a better term, to hold up anything. However, I will tell you, Pug, that I am leaning towards doing this, but not on the timeline that you have suggested. So if that's without this friendly amendment, I would probably be a no.
Thank you.
Other commentary on the friendly amendment? Okay, Pug, do you want to accept the friendly amendment or not?
While I am reluctant, I will accept it, yes.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion regarding the motion on the floor? Okay. Leslie?
I would like to hear the motion as it is actually being presented again, because it's been through a couple of changes.
I move that we allow the East Kingdom to conduct a one-time experiment to hold a royal list via fencing, rapier combat, and that the tournament be conducted between January 1, 2025 and December 31, 2026.
One final question on the motion before we proceed. Is there any concern that this would compel the East to hold such an experiment? I'd still like to leave it to their discretion, so whether or not they choose to exercise the experiment. Okay. Any further questions, discussion? All right, in that case, we'll move to voting. Would the directors in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye. I will exercise my option to vote and do so in favor. Opposed? And I believe there are no abstentions or recusals. Leslie, do you have what you need recorded? The ayes are 4, the nays are 3, and as such, that motion carries. Okay, Pug, I believe you mentioned the second motion.
Actually, before I get to the second motion, since that passed, I think we should direct the Society Seneschal and Society Marshal and the Ombudsman to work with the East Kingdom, Seneschal, Marshal, and Crown to finalize the criteria of the guardrails we were discussing and holding this experiment to work on follow-up surveys in order to measure the progress of it throughout the term of the experiment and the data necessary to produce a final report.
Okay.
Leaving it open-ended, but these are the expectations of the experiment.
Is there any discussion on the request from Director Bainter? Without objection and by consent, so ordered. Second motion, Bud?
Yes, and I don't know if we'll have friendly amendments or not on this one. We'll see. I move that we hold any additional requests for Royal List alternative experiments for SCA Inc. and all current and future affiliates until the East Kingdom Royal List experiment period expires on December 31st, 2026, or 1 year past the decoronation of the victor of the Rapier List experimental tournament.
There is a motion from Director Bainter. Is there a second? Second from Director Shepherd. Jennifer?
I have another friendly amendment. Mr. Chair, I propose that that motion includes that would be for the entire SCA, including any affiliates, current affiliates or future affiliates that may be created, that holds on additional requests for Royal List alternatives be held pending the end of this experiment.
Jennifer, I think that the language that Pug read in that he proposed had that language in it, including all present and future affiliates.
Okay, I didn't hear that part. I
Pug,
apologize.
can you verify that or not?
It does say that, yes. Request for Royal List alternative experiments for SCA Inc. and all current and future affiliates.
Okay, thank you.
Gabe?
I had a question. Do we want or do we need to specify the earliest of or the latest of those two dates that are proposed?
I think it perhaps may be an if expire until the I think perhaps it may need to be until the experiment period expires on December 31, 2026, if the experiment was not exercised, or until 1 year past the decoronation of the victor if it was. I mean, I don't know that I'd want to write it that way, but I think that was what the intent was in the language.
That was the intent, yes.
As I understand it, would be either the experiment period expires without the East exercising it before we would entertain any other such experiment requests from kingdoms, or until 1 year after the decoronation of the victor in this list. If it
The
was,
way it's open for further requests as
not
soon as
pushing
December
back
20.
on that and saying, you know, perhaps we could wordsmith it and you know, heaven help us all if you ask me to do that. But yeah,
The current wording says that come December 31st, even if they've had their experiment
right.
and 1 year hasn't passed, they could still submit somebody else could submit
Got it.
a proposal. So I think it needs to be the early of or whichever occurs first.
Well, it may not be first though.
No.
Depending on that. I think it's going to have to include the if then language in it or something close to that. Hypothetically, Pug, would you accept a friendly amendment that were to say until either the East Kingdom Royal experiment period expires without being exercised, or until 1 year past the decoronation of the victor, hypothetically speaking?
I would be. I was wordsmithing on the background.
Okay.
I used a slightly different verbiage. So it would be until either the East Kingdom Royal List experiment period expires on December 31st, 2026, if not enacted, or until 1 year past the decoronation of the victor.
Okay. Gabe, does that answer your concern
I still think it leaves the same loophole there.
with the if not enacted?
I'll accept it.
Well, I see some, I think there were a few other folks. Jennifer, does the language fit, or do you think that needs further wordsmithing?
I mean, I think that the intent is clear, but I don't know that the language is as clear. Like, I know what the intent was.
Right.
Think that that could be misunderstood, but it's fine.
Hypothetically, then, what about if it were to say expires on December 31, 2026 without being exercised or without being enacted, comma, or 1 year past the decoronation of the victor? Jennifer?
I think you can break it down into 2 sentences. If there is a crown, if this option is exercised, then it will, then the experiment will end 1 year past the decoronation. If it is not exercised and there is no experimental tournament, then it will expire, then the period will expire on December 31st, 2026.
Hypothetically, proffering that friendly amendment would result in language that, and I'll read it in, I'll restate it in its entirety to make sure I'm understanding and that we're all on the same page. This would be a motion from Director Bainter to hold any additional requests for Royal List alternative experiments for SCA Inc. and all current and future affiliates until 1 year past the decoronation of the victor of the Rapier List experimental tournament, period. New sentence. If the experiment is not exercised, if
I can jump in,
please.
I would say if the option to hold an experimental tournament is not utilized, then the experiment period expires on December 31st, 2026.
The hold expires.
The hold expires.
Could you say that again so I can
If
capture it?
the option to hold an experimental tournament is not utilized, the period for holding any additional requests will expire on December 31st, 2026.
With the hypothetical proffered language from Jennifer, does that answer your concerns, Gabe?
Yes, thank you.
I'm anticipating your question, Leslie. We're going to read the whole thing back in a second. But were you able to capture that?
I think so. Let me read it back so that we can see if I captured all of the verbiage changes. Move to hold any additional requests for Royal List alternative experiments for SCA Inc. and all current and future affiliates until 1 year past the decoronation of the victor of the Rapier List experimental tournament. If the option to hold an experimental tournament is not utilized, the hold period will expire on December 31st, 2026.
Leslie, did you catch that?
I'm going to ask Pug to please put that in the chat box so I can see it.
And I just made my own friendly amendment to specify it as the East Kingdom Rapier List experiment.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Pug, did you already put that in the chat for Leslie?
Just did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie, you have it? Okay. Gabe?
Can I make a comment kind of off topic?
Please.
As many of you can see, these are ongoing dialogues that we have. We can't always drop everything to answer questions on the online chat. So please try and bear some patience with us and act with courtesy. We are doing our best to, first of all, hammer out what we feel is best for the society, and then we will address your questions where appropriate in a timely manner. I would just ask that folks be polite and patient. Thank you.
There was a motion from Director Bainter, suitably amended. I believe the second was from Shep. Is that correct? Okay. Is there further discussion on this motion? Okay. There being none, we'll move to the voting. With the directors in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. All opposed? And with no recusals, no abstentions, that motion carries. Pug?
a clarifying statement for those watching from home and or the video in the future. This does not bind future boards from being able to do this. What it does require them to do is they would have to take action to rescind this particular motion before they move forward. So it would have to be a multi-step process. We're not binding a future board to prevent them to saying we were incorrect in the time period or something, but we do want it to be a thought through and thoughtful process should they do it. And I yield.
Leslie, you have everything you need for the minutes?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. So that was a lot. And we are over an hour and a half into the meeting. I think it would be appropriate at this time for us to take a short recess for folks to collect themselves, perhaps use the facilities if necessary and so on. Directors, is that acceptable? I see nods. Given the circumstances, I'd say top of the hour, 2:00 p.m. Central Time, or do we need longer? 2 p.m. So we'll stand in recess for roughly 7 minutes. Since the directors and the officers are back, we will proceed with the meeting. And that brings us to item 4C, patron member changes to governing documents. I believe that was already covered by President Dow, although I will take a moment to pause if there's any comments or other things any of the directors want to share at this time regarding that topic before we move on. Pug?
This is a more personal thing, and Bao sort of touched on this. It is something that I look forward to as a longtime contributor to the SCA, to have something such as a patron membership that we could hold of our own, potentially have different benefits based on how nonprofits do this. Even things as simple as your name getting put in the annual report for the nonprofit does mean something to people who make additional contributions such as patron membership. So it is something I look forward to. And I think as a 501c3, it is something that we probably should have had for a while. I'm good to see that we're maturing and adding these types of additional, more granular options for the members. And I yield.
Thanks, Bug. Anything else on patron membership before we move on? In that case, that'll bring us to item D under old business. Liz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was the main action item in my report. In 2022, I did a corpora interpretation, which the board upheld at the time, involving the ability of crowns to hold people out of their royal lists. Basically, this is something that has always been regarded as a crown right on an individual basis, to tell somebody, no, we don't think we're compatible, we don't want you in our list. However, in my tenure and somewhat before my tenure, there have been several instances of crowns that held or tried to hold out a large swath of people based on some characteristics such as what part of the kingdom they lived in, what household they belonged to. In one case, I wasn't, this is before my time a little bit. In one case, they didn't want any people of I believe Pelicans it was, to enter crown tourney for some reason. And there's also been instances, at least one instance since I've been in office, of a crown that denied more than half of the people who sent in letters of intent based on the fact that they, I guess, were looking for a particular level of experience that they didn't think some of these people had. It is not in the best interest of the SCA for the crown, the sitting crown, to control that much the outcome of their list. Keeping a couple of people out because you have cause to or don't believe that you could get along with them as heirs is one thing, but trying to deny entry to an entire identifiable group of people, and that was what my corpora interpretation was about. The board upheld it, but then we continued to have one or two crowns out there who decided that they didn't have to listen to corpora interpretations, I guess. So I proposed in 2023 in addition to corpora, it would be, for corpora for royalty, adding a 0.4, and we submitted wording and commentary came back, and people were generally favorable to the concept, but they didn't like some of the specific wording. So earlier this year, I rewrote it. We put it out for comment on April 27th with a deadline of June 30th. And I've got the commentary back. The revised version went out for, as I said, April 27th, deadline June 30th. Approximately 32 comments were received. My email doesn't show any of those having been received after mid-May, which is kind of speaks to 60 days as opposed to a shorter time, but that's another discussion. Of those, only 2 of those were clear no's, clear unequivocal, no, don't do this. The breakdown I had, there were 10 people that said an unconditional yes, 2 people that said, okay, maybe I should, I'm sorry, I got out of order. I should read the proposed language, I think. Otherwise, this doesn't make as much sense. I'm sorry about that. What I proposed adding this time around was a 0.4. The crown or principality coronet may refuse entry into the royal lists as either combatant or consort on an individual basis only, for cause stated only to the person denied entry. Entry into the royal lists may not be denied to identifiable groups of people or to a large enough number of entrants that it materially affects the size of the list. Originally, I had a 0.5, I'm sorry, the original one did not have crown or principality coronet. It had just crown, and I'd added a 0.5 that said the coronet of a principality may deny entry as stated above only with the approval of the crown. I'll get into that in a minute because some of the commentary addressed that point, and I'm asking to alter it slightly therefore. So on that language, 10 of the 32 said, yes, do it. 2 said, don't do it. Bad idea. 2 more said, yes, but you shouldn't require the crown to give a reason. 9 people expressed concerns about that principality clause. They were mostly people who had been principality royalty, and they didn't like the idea that the principality royalty needed to get approval from their crown. They didn't really comment on the rest of the proposal. 3 people stated a definite yes, but also expressed concern about that principality thing. And then there were another 6 people who liked the idea, but thought it should go even further in restricting the crown's ability to refuse entry to the list. They didn't like the idea that the crown could do this at all, or they thought it should only be done for certain very identifiable reasons or that sort of thing. So it's difficult to classify those 9 who just simply said they didn't like the principality thing because they didn't express how they felt otherwise. They brought up issues mostly around the difficulty of informing the crown in advance because there are some principality lists that don't have advance letters of intent, and concern that the crown shouldn't have that much control over the principality lists. Those concerns were also voiced by the 3 other writers who were clearly approved of the idea, but had the principality concerns. I thought those concerns were well placed. My intent in mentioning principalities was just anticipating that it would come up at some point. I've got a slight edit that would take care of this, and a kingdom could always add to its laws an expectation that the crown consult with principality royalty if they choose to do so. The 6 people who thought that the language didn't go far enough to restrict the crown's ability to bar someone clearly liked the idea of restrictions. So I think it's fair to count those as yes votes. They like the idea, they just wish it went further. And the 2 who said the crown shouldn't be required to state a reason still approved of not being able to bar swaths of people. They made that clear in their statement. So that leaves us at 21 yes, 2 no, and 9 can't tell for sure. I would submit that significantly more people than not are in favor of the idea. And as I said, it was based on an interpretation, which means that in a way it's already there because an interpretation I make that's approved by the board is basically corpora. So the change I am proposing to make, and I don't think it's a big enough one, in my opinion, to have to put it out for comment yet a 3rd time, is crossing off that 0.5. The coronet of a principality may deny entry as stated above only with the approval of the crown, and instead changing the main point to read the crown or principality coronet may refuse entry into the royal lists as either combatant or consort, etc. My personal opinion is that's not a big enough change to require us to send this out yet a 3rd time. And as I said, as far as control of principality royalty by their crown, the crown is always free to make laws that rule their principalities if they want to. So they could put that into their kingdom law if they wanted to, and it fits their culture. So I'm asking that the board approve the corpora change as amended, as I amended it for this report.
Thank you, Liz. There's a request for action from the board, from the Society Central. Let me start by consensus and without objection, we will accept that the proposed language is sufficiently close to the originally circulated language as to not require it to be recirculated to the membership without objection. So stipulated. Okay, as to the substance of the corpora change, having heard the results of the of having the language be circulated to the populace, are there any questions or comments for the Society Central? There being none, I would ask if any directors are minded to move on whether or not we should accept or reject this amendment to corpora. Director Fisher,
I'm happy to make a motion.
please do so.
Yeah, sorry, just a second. Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the changes to corpora section 4.a royalty selection as presented by the Society Central.
A motion from Director Fisher and a second by Director Shepherd. Is there discussion on this motion? There being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Directors opposed? Okay. And directors abstaining? In that case, Director Shepherd, I apologize. I did not record. I must have missed how you voted. In favor?
Yep.
Thank you. I have the voting is 5 in favor, 1 opposed, and no abstentions, no recusals, and that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That would bring us to item 5 on the agenda, new business. Under item 5, there's item A, the Siege Engine Handbook. Melissa?
So, yeah, thank you. Yes, I would like to request and recommend that the board approve a addition to our siege activities. This would be Target Siege. An experimental program has been going on for a couple of years in Antir. And basically we're leveraging our current approved siege engines, which we already use in combat, and just using them on the target range to shoot target ammunition. So all the safety factors that we've already developed and have used for many years in operating and building these siege engines, we're just capitalizing on that experience and just adding a new type of ammo.
There's a presentation and request from the Society Marshal. Is there any questions or comments on the requested board action? There be Shep?
I just wanted to say how well done this this handbook is. I really like the work that you and your deputies have put into this. Good job.
Thank you. I'm excited. I can't believe we haven't been doing this all this time.
Krista?
Having gotten to do this at West Antir War a couple years ago, while it was an experiment, this is a lot of fun. I think this brings a lot to our game.
If there's no further questions or comments to the Society Marshal, I would open the floor for any motions. Director Shepherd?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the Target Siege Marshal's Handbook as presented by the Society or Marshal with great appreciation.
Motion by Director Shepherd. Is there a second? Second by Director Boucher. You can't second your own motion. Discussion on this motion. There being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? And with no abstentions, no recusals, that motion also carries. Melissa, I think the next is yours as well for the Youth Combat Marshal's Handbook.
Yes. So this is present and we recommend approval from the board. Some minor changes to the Youth Combat Handbooks. It's a codification of existing processes and some minor changes, especially in the language, to ensure that it's consistent with all the other handbooks. A list of those changes is included in the report. And if there's any questions, be happy to answer them. If not, I would ask that these changes be approved.
There is a presentation of it, of the manual and a request for board action from the Society Marshal. Is there any questions or discussion for the Society Marshal? There being none, I'll open the floor to directors minded to make a motion on this item. Director Shepherd.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, again, I'd like to move that we accept the revision to the Youth Combat Marshals Handbook as presented by the Society or Marshal, as presented.
Motion for Director Shepherd, second for Director Katz. Is there any discussion on the motion as presented? There being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? And with no abstentions and no recusals, that motion also carries. And thank you very much, Melissa, for those two items. And I'll echo Shep's comments in saying those were very well done and very well presented. Thank you. That will bring us to item 6 on the agenda, the reports of the corporate officers. The report of the president himself has already been taken out of order and presented by the president earlier in the meeting. That would bring us to item 6A1, the report of the society IT manager, or excuse me, the society vice president for information technology. In lieu of Sam, I will present the report for his deputy myself, or for him myself. Excuse me. Unto the esteemed directors of the Society for Creative Anachronism, the Vice President for Information Technology sends greetings. Herein follows the second quarter 2024 report to the Board of Directors regarding the activities of the Department of Information Technology for the board's July 21st, 2024 meeting. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. He goes on to list some commendations, which are playing through the breaks and whatnot. For the general status report, this has been a very quiet quarter for information technology. While we have continued to progress on policy document and the SharePoint project, the SharePoint with Tech Impact project should wrap up at in the month of July. This will be only the start of the work, as the IT department intends to continue to work with the corporate officers to improve functionality and security for our SharePoint site. Also, due to the work with Tech Impact, we should have more training materials available for people using our Office 365 or SharePoint instances. And for the publishable summary, this quarter was marked by small but significant gains in ongoing projects. The policy documentation continues to evolve. Most of the work this quarter has been on updating the corporate SharePoint instance. Additionally, in collaboration, with Tech Impact, we are generating training materials for the corporate officers. And that is the report of the Vice President for Information Technology, respectfully submitted, Sam Davis. Opening the floor to the directors. Any questions or comments regarding the report of the Vice President for IT? There being none, by consensus or without objection, the board accepts the report of the Vice President for IT briefly. That would bring us to 6A1A, the Society Web Minister, who I believe is also not in attendance today. Excuse me, there he is. Nicholas, take it away.
Thank you, Director. Let me just get my screen up. Unto the esteemed directors of the Society of Creative Anachronism, the Society Web Minister sends greetings. Herein follows the second quarter 2024 report to the Board of Directors regarding the activities of the Web Ministry for the board's July 2024 meeting. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. Commendations, none. General status report. For this quarter, there were 17 kingdoms reporting out of 20. Of those 17 that filed a report, 12 had responded with the following information. For the Kingdom of Ethelmart, there's been cleaning up of broken links from their main page. No other major issues have been reported. Glenavon website has been redesigned and is working on new form software package for their kingdom. West Kingdom, new award recommendation form has been launched and the new Kingdom website is being built. Kingdom calendar has been changed over to Google for ease of populous use. Atlantia, new web minister will be selected in the fall, but no other business to report at this time. On Tier, Website is being redesigned for better accessibility. Callantir, new deputies added and work with North Shield continues across kingdom borders. Webminister team is actively training staff at local levels whenever possible. The Outlands, the web ministry continues to be very active with significant projects spanning web services, accounts management, and officer support. There have been several branches fully converted from personal email accounts to Kingdom provided Google accounts. Project to help with officer warrants tracking and reporting is moving along well. Let's say Aitenveld, as I was. Order of Precedence site has been redesigned and updated. They're working to have the award recommendation connected to this database. Site is being redesigned live to minimize downtime of the web page. Wiki page and event calendar projects are moving forward. Midrealm, the Kingdom in the Middle. Middle Wiki is being moved to the Kingdom multi-site. New Kingdom Web Minister will be reporting soon, as the current Web Minister is now a royal heir to the Middle Kingdom. Congratulations. North Shield, moving ever forward with domain transfers and Kingdom page redesign, also working with members of the Kingdom of Callantir's web team. Onseora, joint regnum and directory shared between Web and Chronicler's office for ease of communication, working to expand Marshall database to support officer warrants and authorizations. Trimeris, working to transfer a website to different server for reduction in cost, and working to get more local web ministers in place to alleviate the workload for the Kingdom Web Ministers team. The publishable summary, the kingdoms are continuing to work well across borders and share knowledge. The 3 kingdoms that did not submit a report this quarter have communicated their reports will be later than usual, but without any changes in the last quarter. This report marks my 2nd year in office, and a new Society Web Minister will be chosen within the next year. The job continues to be a challenge that I've welcomed, and the experience of working with people from around the known world has been very rewarding. For the next 3 quarters, I hope to continue to see growth in our community and the SCA as a whole. The goal was to ensure we were working smarter and using simpler technology. This would allow volunteers that aren't deep in the technical field to be easily trained quickly. There are a lot of website redesign going on in the SCA, and sometimes the web pages might go down. Web ministers should be more forthcoming in any announcements when access might be limited. If you see an unplanned or unannounced outage, please reach out to your web ministers directly. Also, in this age of instant communication, please understand that all web ministers or any officer are volunteers. Please grant them grace when they are trying to best serve these communities. They may not respond immediately for a variety of reasons. Do not automatically assume malice or apathy. Respectfully, Nicholas Milano, Society Web Minister.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Directors, the report of the Society Web Minister has been presented. Are there any questions for the Society Web Minister? By consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts the report of the Society Web Minister. And thank you, Nick, for taking the time to join the meeting and present it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. This will bring us to item 2 under the President's office. That would be the Society Communications Officer. At this time, that office has submitted no report. Under item 3, the Society Media Officer. At this time, that officer has submitted no report. And that would bring us to the Society DEIB Officer under 6A4. Pug, as you were the ombudsman for that office, would you take that one?
Yes, for the Office of Inclusive Programs by Charles Burke. This is the 2nd quarter report for 2024. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. Publishable summary. Kingdom and Society DEIB Officer Handbook has been rolled out. We received a thumbs up from publications. Several kingdoms have reached out for guidance in appointing new DEIB officers based on the handbook guidance. We will have the completed revised job description for the Society DEIB office ready before the next conference call. Discussions have begun for planning 2025's Known World DEIB Symposium. This ends the report for the Office of Inclusive Programs.
The report of the DEIB officer is submitted to the board. Are there any questions regarding the report? There being none, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts the report of the Society DEIB officer. That would bring us to item B under reports, that of the Society Vice President for Operations, Liz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. My requested board actions was already dealt with, the corpora requested change. The group status changes have also already been dealt with, just acknowledgement of new groups this time. Let's see, I had no policy interpretations this quarter, no new policies. Ravel, in late April, the Kingdom of Avocal flew me to their Avocal University event in Saskatoon. And I taught 2 classes, one on how the corporate and society structure work together in the STA, and one on how investigations work. Each class had about 12 to 15 attendees. There was a lot of overlap between them. And the Kingdom seemed satisfied that I've given them their money's worth. They paid for my airfare out there. I also attended Lily's War as usual, and Director Shepard and I had held a small board meet and greet there. There were, I don't know, maybe 10 people or so, but they had a lot of good questions. They wanted to know things about how the corporation actually works and how things work and how the rules work and so forth. So it was really a pretty good little session, I think. And as is my usual habit, I plan to attend PennSIC for pretty much the entire event. Other than that, I don't have any particular out of kingdom travel plans for the remainder of my tenure unless I would go to a nearby mid-realm event. My publishable summary. Phew, since I last wrote a report, several things of note have happened. The SCA has acquired a new president in a scheduled turnover, with Bao Pham replacing John Fulton as of June 1st. Interviews were conducted during April and an appointment made, which took effect June 1st, of Amanda Grayson as the Deputy Society Seneschal for Investigations. This is an expanded position from the previous investigations deputy position. The expectation is that Mandy's expanded role will take a good bit of the burden of sanctions and investigations off the Society Seneschal's office and make that job somewhat less time-consuming. Interviews were conducted, and on May 2nd, 2024, the board appointed Stacy Hall, Mistress Gwendolyn something Gaelic, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, as the next Society Seneschal, effective November 1st of this year. My warrant was originally scheduled to expire August 31st, but due to scheduled travel that both Stacy and I had, which was going to take each of us in succession to a different continent for weeks, where'd the rest of it go? We requested the board extend me for another 2 months to allow for a reasonable transition time. So she will be taking over effective November 1st. I will be stepping down at the end of October. As I mentioned, I was invited to present 2 classes at Avocal's University event. I enjoyed the lovely hospitality of a kingdom where I'd never before traveled. And as I mentioned before, Director KT Shepard and I held a small board meet and greet at the Lily's War, which was pretty well received, I think. There were some questions also about the board action creating the new peerage, because that had just happened. I let Shep handle those. I wasn't at that meeting. Additionally, the Known World has held several of the extended camping events that crop up with the summer season. Double Wars in Drachenwald, Lily's War in Callantyre, Battlemore in Outlands, Quad Wars in Avocal. Sorry, I learned how to pronounce that when I was there. I've been pronouncing it wrong all these years. It's hard to break the habit. Ontier West War, Warriors and Warlords in North Shield, and a new one in Artemisia, Kings Road. Plans are afoot for PennSIC, Great Western War, and War of the Wings in the upcoming quarter. Speaking personally, this sort of SCA event is my favorite because of the immersion factor. I would encourage people to look into attending such an event if they're able. The experience is truly magical. Known World events are also popping up. Some of these are virtual or hybrid so that more people from a wider section of the SCA can learn and participate in our educational activities. People should please remember that there are some requirements for an event to use the Known World designation. These are located at the SCA.org website under Society Seneschal items. The requirements are generally not difficult or onerous, but they do need to be followed, including the required approvals from Kingdom that's hosting it and so forth. In fact, all the SCA's rules, policies, and procedures, as well as a wealth of other information about the organization, can be found at the SCA.org website. I encourage people to read it and to remember that officers and royalty are expected to be familiar with our rules. With 1 quarter left in a tenure which started near the beginning of the COVID lockdown when I was appointed Society Seneschal-elect, I'm working on a smooth transition of the office. I'm sure my final quarterly report will have some thanks and some retrospective, as I've never quite learned the application of brevity in writing. Meanwhile, have fun, be safe as the summer unfolds, and remember to thank a volunteer or 3. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. The report of the Society Central is presented to the board. Are there any questions for the Society Central? In that case, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts the report of the Society Central as well. Thanks, Liz. That would take us to, actually, that is a good point. Considering that Liz has made reference to it in her report already, I think we will take this opportunity to formally announce the selection of Stacy Hall for the position of Society Central following the standard conclusion of Liz's term in that office. There'll be more things to say towards the end of the meeting, Liz, but you know, to quote unquote, make it official and put our stamp on it, we will make that announcement now. That brings us to item B1, the Society Youth Activities Officer. Liz, are you in a position to take that one?
Oh, goodness, yes. I'm sorry. I lost track of where I was. Give me just a second here. Society Youth Activities Officer, Michelle Santee. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. She had some commendations, which I assume are on the scroll that's being shown during breaks. Travel, she hasn't traveled much because she had a broken leg and then she was out of the country for a while. She was planning on going to Warriors and Warlords. I assume she did since that has passed, and she's going to be at Penzic. Publishable summary. Youth officers are busy working to make the society more inclusive, visible, and approachable for family participation. Handbooks are being written or updated in several kingdoms. Resources are being shared across kingdoms. Please volunteer to help out with family, teen, and youth areas, especially during the interkingdom wars. Check out how to get a background check or / waiver if you are interested in helping in these areas regularly. And that is her report.
Okay, thank you. That is the report of the Society Youth Minister submitted and presented by the Society Central. Are there any questions regarding the report? There being none, by consensus, the board gratefully accepts the report of the Society Youth Minister as well. Youth Activities Officer, excuse me. That would bring us to item C. This would be the report of the Vice President for Corporate Operations, Louise.
Thank you. Time for the mostly me show for a minute. So this is the report for the second quarter of 2024. I have no board actions, policy interpretations, or policies. My commendations to Carolyn and Bonnie have been mentioned earlier and are in the scroll, which was made by our communications officer, Bridget, and will, by the way, also be posted after the meeting. So these commendations will go out to anybody not lucky enough to be attending this meeting. General status report, insurance certificate requests have leveled off somewhat after a very, very busy start to the spring and summer event season. Insurance requests are handled and processed within the week they are received. And now that kind of event season rush is over, work is proceeding on the new electronic process for requesting certificates, which should help streamline the process for everyone. This past quarter's processing issues with Wells Fargo, which were primarily concentrated in Artemisia, were at last resolved in late June. All bank authorizations for local and regional groups are again being processed on a regular schedule. We continue to maintain an inbox zero level on membership at SCA.org. All membership emails received during business hours are handled that day, and messages received during off time are responded to within one business day. We're continuing to update the membership FAQ. And for those folks who are worried about not getting their cards before Penzic, we did build in an extra shipping of the blue membership cards. So we built in an extra one to make sure we go out. There is always some downtime between getting the requests, printing them, sending them out. So thanks for everybody's patience. And of course, the digital cards ran great at Penzic last year. They'll be great again this year. And as always, please reach out to us at membership@sca.org if you have questions or need assistance with your membership. Insurance@sca.org for insurance questions. And for background checks, we have background checks at sca.org or your Kingdom Seneschal for those inquiries. That's all for me.
Thank you, Louise. That is the report of the Society Vice President for Corporate Operations submitted to the board. Are there any questions for Louise? There being none, without objection and by consensus, the board gratefully accepts the report of the vice president. Louise, I believe there may be perhaps one or two other items you may be presenting.
This is the report for the second quarter of the publications manager, Gloria Woodard, known in society as Honor of Restermel. No board actions, policy interpretations, or new policies. General status report. There has been some question about the need for a chronicler at the baronial level. The requirements were amended, allowing baronial newsletters to be published quarterly and exclusively online. There has been a lot of thought given to maintaining the requirement for a baronial newsletter, and some of the reasons are: it should be no issue for a group the size of a barony to be able to have a chronicler perform the minimum requirement of one online newsletter each quarter. It not only creates a chronicle, that's in quotes, of the activity in the barony for the archives of the SCA, but it also provides the populace with a snapshot of the group and an official outlet for sharing information and news. For some participants, the mention of their name or achievement would be of significant personal importance. The newsletter also provides an outlet for people to publish their research, recipes, artwork, etc., and share their knowledge and enthusiasm. An upside to newsletters is that it doesn't require participation in social media interactions to obtain this information. There are people who don't or can't monitor social media. Social media interaction should not be a requirement for participation in the SCA, and the newsletter helps keep people informed. There's also the need for any barony applying to be a principality to have a chronicler and a newsletter. Even if the barony does not aspire to principality status, it is still of benefit to the group, especially in providing a document tracing the history and accomplishments of the barony and its popularity. This requirement is under the purview of the Society Chronicler's Office and is within the Society Chronicler Policies, Section 3.a. Publishable summary: the publications team produces monthly Kingdom newsletters, Tournaments Illuminated, and complete Anachronist publications. If you're not familiar with our quarterly publications, take the opportunity to look through these amazing publications. Subscriptions are available through the SCA Bookshop at sca.org. And I will add, we also have back issues available on the marketplace. That is the report of the publications manager.
Excellent. Thank you, Louise. That is the report again submitted by Louise for the complete Anachronist.
Publications manager.
Publications manager. Apologies, jumping ahead in the agenda. Are there any questions for Louise? There being none, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts the report of the publications manager.
There's no TI report, Mr. Chair, but we've got Ellen here, I believe, yes, to present the complete Anachronist report.
Excellent.
Sorry, just unmuting there. Okay, so this report, I do have a requested board action. It's the same one I had last time. I was unable to make the last meeting, so I'm not sure what was said about it. So should I read it again and bring it up? Okay, Sarah Rossi, who is the co-author of Complete Anachronist 202, resides in Italy. She isn't an SCA member simply because there aren't any groups near her. But she worked with Daniel Phelps, who is an SCA member in Trimaris, to write the Lucid Compendium. She recently reported to me that Lucid fans in Europe who aren't SCA members want to buy that Complete Anachronist. However, potential purchasers in Italy, the Netherlands, and Germany had trouble with the SCA bookshop order form. Despite clicking on their respective countries, the form insisted that they had to click on a US state or Canadian province in order to complete the order. I've written to Louise and she's checking into it. But Sarah also reported that the shipping cost to Italy for that Complete Anachronist was $22 per book, which surprised her. Now, I understand that US postage rates have escalated in recent years and that the US hasn't had surface shipping for some time, and I certainly don't want the SCA to lose money on international shipping. On the other hand, I know that we want to sell books, and since we do have members throughout the world, I just think it could be useful to find a way to effect a solution to this issue. I'm happy to work with Louise, with Gloria, with the board, etc., to investigate feasible ideas that might make it easier for people outside of North America to purchase copies of various SCA books and periodicals.
If you could pause there for a moment, Ellen.
Sure.
There is a requested board action from the Complete Anachronist editor. So I'll open the floor if there are questions or comments regarding the requested action. Hug?
I think this is a good idea to find better ways for sharing our knowledge with others around the world and not necessarily have to deal with the nuances of US Postal Service. I think that we should try to find answers for this and have the group that she recommended move forward with the process. And I yield.
Louise?
Yes, thank you. And I will say that there are two issues. So one issue is one of our CRM's functionality. So for some reason, and I'm guessing just because while it is a nonprofit focused CRM, it's not really international focused. So although we're able to have people log in internationally and put in all kinds of countries, when it goes to buying, the store simply does not allow it. So what we've kind of had a messy way around it so far, is that they can contact us directly, we can process payment and we can ship it to them. But the other issue is one of, as Ellen mentioned, just the cost. And one thing that was that Ellen brought up, which we should maybe look into, is some kind of drop shipping where we send possibly to a place in Europe some kind of, we're about to do an inventory of our current market, our current warehouse. So maybe we can send things in bulk to someplace. But anyway, that's where we are.
Please, Ellen.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm sure that some people in the audience might say, well, why don't we just publish it all electronically? And one thing I can say as editor is that, well, if we publish it all electronically, that would be different. But if we did electronic versions and print versions, people may not be aware that one of the biggest issues I actually have as editor is dealing with images. A lot of people will just take an image that's from a museum or library website and put it on their personal website and don't think anything about it. However, to publish it, I need to make sure that we have permission to do so. It's copyright free, or the museum has said, yes, you can do this. And I've had a lot of people argue with me about it and say, oh, no, this law says this. And so there are oftentimes that I can get permission to publish it in the Complete Anachronist. But if we were to put it on some sort of official SCA website, then I wouldn't be able to use the image without incurring, great charges. So it's very it's not as simple as issue as many people think. It is actually fairly complicated, unfortunately.
Other questions, other comments? Recognizing myself, I would say for my part, I tend to be repugnant in that for the persons Ellen named, that our best course of action to reply to the requested action is to direct the named corporate officers to investigate how we can make those publications available to our non-American audiences.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Should I keep going?
That's my suggestion, but we
Oh, sorry.
by consensus and without objection, so directed. Thank you. Please proceed, Ellen.
Okay, sorry about that. Accommodations. I'm repeating the following accommodations since CA 203 was published this quarter. It was published late, and I apologize. So thank you to Garfield Matson for Complete Anachronist 203, the Havamal, the Sangkar, and his determination to create his own translation for this part of the Poetic Edda. Thanks also to him for allowing me to make some editing changes at the time that I had typed this. Elise Fleming was currently finishing up her copy editing work, and I knew that her eyes will catch anything I've missed, and she does. And I had no doubt at the time that Sue Gilbert's layout would be fantastic, and it was. Final kudos also must go to Atli Freyr Gudmundsson, who is a member of the Shire of Klakkavirki, which is Iceland, here in Drakenwald. He is a native Icelandic speaker, an archaeologist, and is very interested in the Icelandic sagas. So though he wasn't able to review the entire manuscript, he was available for questions regarding some rather tricky translations, and his language expertise made it clear that translations of poetry, especially translations from older languages, can vary quite a bit depending on the translator's interpretations and the poetic depth. Commendations must also go to Volker Bach, who wrote Cookery, Complete Anachronist 12 years ago, for sending me a well-written and well-reviewed manuscript on Hanseatic foodways when I was worried about not having anything to publish this summer. It should be CA 204, and he also peer-reviewed a manuscript concerning Roman history that I hope will be CA 205. And although Hanseatic Foodways isn't quite ready, as of this writing, for copy editing and layout yet, I'm going to thank Elise Fleming for her copy editing prowess. She's agreed to go through it and also contribute her own review since she is an ex-SCA cooking expert. She has helped to edit some of Volker Bach's past books before he had them published professionally. And I also know that Sue Gilbert's layout and design will be exemplary. I need to add something that isn't on here because things kind of changed a little bit. And unfortunately, Volker's manuscript was way long. And when he cut it, he realized he still wanted to add some more recipe redactions, so which meant cutting more. So it's not ready to go yet. However, manuscript that had been reviewed, peer reviewed over a year ago, I got the final copy in, seriously, very, very recently. So that's the one that I am working on at the moment. And it is, let me quickly pull it up so I can give you the complete title. It is listed in my list of various things. It's an illustrated guide to women's clothing in Anglo-Saxon Kent during the 5th to 8th centuries. So I am actually in the background during this meeting. I was working on editing the endnotes for it. So I am working on it literally, well, not as I speak right now, but literally as we have been speaking. And the last thing to do are some things with images. I am going to be calling the Museum of London to check on their policy about using photographs taken at the museum. If not, we do have an artist who will be able to make renderings of some of the things. Because generally, if the museums don't want you to publish photos that you've taken at the museum, because generally it says for personal use only, or they will charge to allow you to use their images, they're generally fine with allowing an artist to, to draw something, sketch something of it. So we may go that way. So I apologize. This is major mea culpas, but I apologize that Complete Anachronisms 204 it's very late. It should have been mailed out this month, but it should be ready within a couple of weeks, I promise. And it looks like the one on what this means though is that once this is done, I've got two that are kind of waiting in the wings. So the one on Hanseatic foodways should be ready to go in the autumn, and also the one on Roman divinations will be right behind it. So this one is late, but I've got a couple that are almost ready, and so they should be ready in time so that we can get back to having things published on time. So thank you very much. Oh, wait, there was one more thing. I'm sorry. I needed to read the publishable summary. This was the current issue, quarter one, Complete Anachronisms 203, Havamal, the Song of Har, which came out in this quarter two. Havamal, the Song of Har, is a new translation of a section of the Poetic Edda, believed to have been written in 13th century Iceland, although it probably originated much earlier. Havamal literally translates as the High One's words. In Nordic mythology, the High One was the god Othin, god of wisdom, poetry, magic, and death. It was believed that this poem was words of wisdom, homilies, and a code of conduct. Due to page limitations, only section 3 is included here. Why a new translation when there are other versions already available? Well, the author first came across the Havamal in the Poetic Edda before he saw any English editions, and he wanted to try to translate it himself. And although he later read translations, some of them to him seemed either too modern or at least too 19th century. He was determined to create his own version. The translation also includes the original language reads first, followed by a word-for-word translation, and then the author's interpretation of it, and then some commentary on it. So therefore, in addition to presenting a new translation, it also documents the author's process of creating it. And so that ends my report. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. That is the report of the Society Complete Anachronist Editor to the board. Are there any questions for Ellen? In that case, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts your report. Thank you. This would bring us to item 4, the Society Chronicler.
And that's me again, Mr. Chair. I think this is my final one. This is the report of the Society Chronicler, Crystal Smith, known in society as Mistress Cecilia Blythe, OP. No board actions, policy interpretations, working on response to those people looking for a change to requirements for baronial newsletters. No plans to change that policy at this time. Followed by no new policies. General status report. It's time for Black Fox nominations for the past year's newsletters. Nomination form going out, as well as a list of last year's winners. Publishable summary, no problems to report. In need of a deputy society chronicler to train. Also, there are no plans to change baronial newsletter requirements at this time. No known world summary and no travel. Short and sweet as always.
That is the report of the Society Chronicle. Is there any questions from the board? In that case, that report by consensus and without objection is also gratefully accepted. That would bring us to item 5, the Society Archivist.
Hello, everyone. Just to go over this, nothing too long. The archives are still doing well. The physical conditions are stable. We're hoping to start digitizing more documents of interest. So if you have something that you know is out there and you want digitized, let us know so we can put it in the archive digitally. Please continue to send your digital board or your digital newsletters to the digital archivist. We appreciate having those, and it's helpful for the future. We will also be working on efforts to produce a template for recording oral histories so that on your own, members of the SCA can start recording oral histories, and then we'll find a way to submit them to the archive so we can start recording some of the other intangible history that's out there. Otherwise, operations are as normal, and we are grateful for the support that we receive from you all. As a publishable summary, the SCA Archive is working on several projects to digitally preserve physical newsletters in our collection and to start collecting oral histories of SCA members. The archive continues to receive copies both digitally and physically of newsletters from groups throughout the world, and we are grateful to various group chroniclers for their diligence in sending newsletters and other materials to be preserved by the archive. I have no travel information, no new policies requested or board requested actions or interpretations. Thank you for your time.
That is the report of the Society Archivist. Are there any questions from the director? Then by consensus or without objection, Travis, your report is gratefully accepted. Normally that would bring us to the Society Treasurer. In deference to time zone differences, if they wish to do so, I would invite Uni, the Society Herald, to present their report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's 11 p.m. for me, so I appreciate it. So anyway, going straight to my report. First of all, requested board actions. I have one at this time, a slight update to the administrative handbook section 4G4. It's a simple correction of a typo, but since it's in the administrative handbook, it needs a board action. It's
take myself off of mute. If you would
there is an extra word.
Yep.
That needs to be taken.
Yes, I move that we uphold the change to the administrative handbook as presented.
It's a motion from Director Bainter, a second from Director Capps. There a discussion on this motion? Being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor of accepting the change as presented by the Society Herald, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? With no abstentions, no recusals, that motion carries. Uni, you may proceed, please.
And then going to policy interpretations. First, there are 7 updates to the standards for evaluation of names and armory. I hope we can do these as one set.
Yes, we normally do the SENA and the glossary as 2 separate actions.
So there are 7 of them. Number one is cleanup from the ancient branch names and ancient arms approved at the previous meeting in April. Numbers 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 are cases where Jago Wreath King of Arms is cleaning up the rules to make them more understandable and also to be closer to period practice regarding conflict and that sort of thing. And number 4 is Elisabetta Pelican Queen of Arms, making it clearer how we protect the names of society-wide orders and also historical ones. So
I move that we uphold the policy interpretations for the Senna handbook as presented by the Society Herald.
Motion from Director Bainter. Is there a second? Second from Director Fisher. Any discussion on this motion? Being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? And with no abstentions, no recusals, that motion carries as well. Rooney,
And
proceed.
second, in this section, we have changes to the glossary of terms. Number one is again cleanup for the ancient branch names and arms numbers. Number two is adding to our conventional proper colorings and default postures. Number three is updating terms commonly misused in the SCA College of Arms. And number four is I think an actually interesting case where we're trying to clean up some of the things done in a hurry when the Order of Defense was set up in 2015, clarifying that the order badge can be displayed validly by order members with any type of sword instead of just rapiers.
Director Bainter.
I move that we uphold the policy interpretation for the change of the glossary of terms as presented by the Society Herald.
A motion from Director Bainter. Is there a second? Second from Director Fisher. Any discussion on this motion? Being none, we'll move to voting. Directors in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Any opposed? With no abstention, no recusal, that motion also carries.
There are no changes to the admin handbook appendices or to the alternate titles, and no new policies at this time. There are two sets of commendations. First, we had a case where the principal herald of CAID had to step down for medical reasons, and his predecessor was kind enough to take over on short notice to ensure things went smoothly. And as number two, the organizers of the Known World Heraldic and Scribal Symposium did an excellent job, so I would like to commend them. For a general status report, the Known World Heraldic and Scribal Symposium was held on the weekend of June 29th to 30th in the Kingdom of the East. The symposium was a success, including several tracks of both heraldic and scribal classes, as well as side trips to museums and rare book collections. And as I said earlier, it was an excellent event. The second point in the status report is that the Office of the Pelican Sovereign of Arms, that is the person who makes decisions on name submissions, is due to change in October, so that the plan is to use the next 3 months as a training period. I had a call for applicants earlier this year and got 2 excellent ones. And having discussed this with the current Pelican, we both agreed to propose Nazira Chetha, known in the SCA as Sara Algarnatilla, as Elisabetha's successor. Sara has been active as a herald for the past 7 years, including one period as the Meridian principal herald, and she has extensive experience in the name submission and evaluation process. As the third point in the status report, work towards getting the name, badge and regalia for the new peerage order is underway. In early June, I set up a working group for this job, and the group had a meeting during the Known World Heraldic and Scribal Symposium, And as I wrote in my report, there is some hope of being able to complete the project before the October board meeting. But having talked about this with Bao earlier this week, we both agree that it's better to do this right than to try to keep into a specific tight schedule. So the current plan is to have a couple of events, possibly like this board meeting where the general public may ask questions of how this process works and where it's going. The working group can try to assess whether their proposals have problems that they haven't foreseen. Because we do have the experience from setting up the order of defense where some corners were cut in ways that need cleanup even now. Publishable summary is as in the general status report. As for travel, well, like I said, I traveled to the Known World Heraldic and Scribal Symposium last month. That is the extent of international or inter-kingdom travel I expect to see this year. Outside the society, but related to my office, both I and Elizabeth, the current Pelican Queen of Arms, plan to attend the International Congress of Onomastic Sciences, which is going to happen next month in Helsinki. And that is the extent of my report for this quarter. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Directors, that is the report of the Society Herald submitted to the board. Are there any questions or comments on the report as presented? In that case, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts your report. And thank you very much. And recognizing the time differences where you're at and whatnot, please, get some sleep if you need to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to, without objection, I'll return to the normal order in the agenda. And that will bring us to item D, the Society Treasurer, who I believe is not present at this time, so I will present her report as the Ombudsman for that office. Unto the esteemed directors of the Society, greetings. Herein follows the report of the Board of Directors regarding the Office of the Treasurer for the Society for Creative Anachronism for the July board meeting. Just a reminder that I will be unable to attend this meeting as it conflicts with Costume College here, and I am teaching both days of the meeting. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations or changes, none. New policies, none. There are accommodations that are on the accommodations presentation that plays between the during the breaks. For the general status report, an updated report for the investment account is included with this report. This includes not only our overall investment picture, but a breakdown of the holdings. Earlier in the year, we were able to move 85,000 from that. Recently, we've been able to move the 85,000 back from our checking account into our investment account to balance that back out. And this is due in large part to boosted income relating to the membership fee increase. Hopefully we can leave it there for a while, particularly since the stock market has been doing well this quarter. Our actual expenses so far this year have been lower than our revenue, so we are currently operating in the black. We've had 3 positive months out of 5. And there is a spreadsheet attachment that goes into more detail with that. And the treasurer notes that she does not currently have June accounting and won't have it until roughly this time, so it is not included in the report. As promised in the last meeting, the 2022 tax returns have finally been posted to our website. Once she has the bookkeeping for June, she will post an actual versus budget report there as well for mid-2024. Kingdom financial reports are still in process. She is still awaiting reports from the Aytenvelt and Kaid, and this is not in the report, but if the ombudsman for those kingdoms would take note to see if we can encourage those kingdoms and see if there's an issue. Continuing with the report, I'm also waiting for corrections from Onsteora. She is waiting for North Shield to send her their year-end statement for their investment account as well. Adjusting their numbers for that left them out of balance. Other than that, everyone else is in balance and finalized as much as she can do before handing over to the auditors. Publishable summary. While the increase in membership dues created a large bump in revenue for February, our monthly budget figures for membership revenue appear to be fairly normal. There has been a decrease in NMR charges collected, and she's hopeful that means people actually become members during these last few months. I'm still hoping to have an audit, to have the audit for 2023 financials started in July, but given that there are still 4 Kingdom reports missing, that may be problematic. Travel, none. And there are, as noted in the report, there are 3 addenda: the investment account performance and holdings summary, the year-to-date summary of income and expenses, and the balance sheet as of unadjusted, I should mention, all as of 5/30/2024. That is the report of the Society Treasurer. Are there any questions or comments relating to the report of the Treasurer? There being none, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts the report of the Society Treasurer. This would bring us to, and I should note that the other items in the agenda reflect the addenda that were added as part of her report. The information from that is summarized in her report. The detail is available for the directors, so I will skip over those without objection. That brings us to item D4 under reports. This would be the report of the Society Exchequer. Bonnie, who I believe is here to present that.
Greetings. Unto the esteemed board, this is my report for the second quarter of 2024. We did table the financial policy for the Kingdom of the West under requested board actions. That'll be presented to you for the August meeting. We just had a couple of words to tweak. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. Commendations, just many thanks to Brandon from Artemisia and Teresa for the middle for all of their service, and welcome to Jennifer and David as they step up into those 2 kingdoms. No variances. General status: the Exchequer open office hours have been well attended by kingdoms and group exchequers. We have hosted a reporting 101 for groups. That was on 6/23. We'll do more also. Kingdoms, groups, whoever, they just need to ask and we can make this happen. Just ask. Any kingdoms, again, wanting to have any kind of training, let us know. The new bank request forms are working well. The new document sent by the Kingdom Exchequer has a timestamp when it was received, when it gets sent to corporation, and when Louise works her magic and sends it to the banks. Thanks, Carolyn and Louise, for that. My term as Society Exchequer, or my warrant, ends in October. I'm asking the board to please make an announcement in the near future for that, to advertise for that job. I know we're tweaking a few documents, but please keep that on your plates. Our NMR reporting from the last report that James got in, which should have been, I think, the end for May, is at 100%. Carolyn and I are discussing a virtual symposium sometime in the fall. Publishable summary. Financials should be transparent. Please remember, we need to publish kingdom and group budgets. They need to be on the website or in the newsletter, however the kingdoms choose to do that. Now the kingdoms have received their final 2022 reports. The balance sheet income statement should be published and also published in the newsletter. Susan, our PayPal deputy, is drafting a policy change to allow use of QR codes by PayPal. So if they have PayPal here, Zettle at the door, they'll be able to just scan the QR code to pay their entry fees to an event. So we're not ready for that to be presented, but we're working on that. We're going to continue to have the open office hours the second Wednesday a month for Kingdom Exchequers, local exchequers, seneschals. Anybody that wants to attend is welcome. The link is always sent to the Kingdom Exchequer, so please just reach out to them if you're interested. And I have no travel planned at this time. And one final note, I am working with Meridies. I spoke with them yesterday. They're trying to finalize their consolidated. And I'm working with Abacal and with Aidenbelt. Carolyn's working with Kaid. So we are hoping to have all those done by the end of the month. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Bonnie. That is the report of the Society Exchequer presented to the board. Are there any questions for Bonnie? There being none, by consensus and without objection, the board gratefully accepts the report of the Society Exchequer. Thanks, Bonnie. The next item I have on the agenda is the second quarter NMR reports. This is essentially accounting information and other stuff on monies collected, et cetera, and is available for the board's review. By consensus and without objection, we will accept the Q2 NMR report, so ordered. Leslie, I have an item here for item 6E1, that warrant for the Pelton Queen of Arms. That I'm assuming that we'll circulate that as normal. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, sir. That was actually previously addressed.
Oh, thank you. That would bring us to item F, the report of the Society Marshal, who is here. Melissa.
Thank you very much. It's been an exciting quarter. First off, I know the accommodations are listed separately, but I do want to call out thanks to the Youth Combat Marshals and the Siege Marshals and my deputies who helped get these new rules up to date and submitted this quarter. I'm happy to report that as of this time, all 20 of the kingdoms have reported. There were a couple that were late, but we had some changes in office, but everyone has been brought up to date. I'm happy to report. A couple of key changes. The Kingdom of the West, Christopher York is standing up. So thanks to Leo Toph for his time as KEM. And also Skeggy is standing up in Anstura, thanks to the outgoing Asaph. And Avery Aldridge is stepping up in Drakenvault for the happy reason that the prior KEM William won crown. So congratulations to them both. As we all know, there was a new peerage approved for ranged martial pursuits. Huzzah! One thing I'd like to point out that I'm very excited this quarter, we're launching a new experimental program called Harness Vectin. This is for historical combat, and it varies from our typical approach in how we've done martial weapons and where we've established a very precise and distinct set of rules that was a one-size-fit-all across the society. What we're doing instead is using a risk management framework. There are many historical combat schools who outside the SCA have gotten together and established accords, agreements on how they're going to fight each other, their conventions and weapons and armor standards. And so we are using a risk management framework by comparing what they have come up with to our risk level assessments and our rules to find out, are they equivalent? Are they similar? Do they exceed? Or if there's any deficiencies, how do we mitigate that? The goal of this, it enables these other established historical combat schools to come and join the SCA community and environment without having to make major changes in how they're currently already operating. So we're very excited about this program. We've already had several historical schools join the SCA in the last month, just on the rumor that we were working on this. We plan to launch the initial start of this at Pennsic on the steel combat field. I will be personally attending and providing oversight for this activity as we're trying to work forward to see how this new approach might work. But very excited. It allows us to try different conventions and different approaches that are very focused on historical combat without having to rewrite the book, so to speak, for either them or us. So we will see how that goes. Also wanted to point out that the crowns in the last quarter, several of them have adopted formats to increase fighting opportunities, reduce tension and improve discussion, and encourage calling of more moderate and clean blows. For example, Outlands used a best 2 of 3 with a finals best of 4. Drakenwald is planning a similar approach with a best 2 of 3 and also incentivizing use of weapons other than sword and shield. And the recent West Crown used round robin polls with the finals best 3 of 5. So we're seeing a very noticeable increase in communication and discussion on the field, leading to better results and less less tension. So very happy to see that. I'd like to acknowledge that the Mid-Realms Youth Rapier program is rapidly growing. We're also including some experimental weapon research for new types of swords for Division 2, and call out to their majesties of the East Kingdom that they've also made positive changes in how youth tournaments are scheduled at events, which is also bringing more awareness to the program. Artemisia has updated and published all of the handbooks on their website library, and their digital authorization procedures are also being well received. Marshals are even able to update from their phone or computer, and these are generated instantaneously, and the Kingdom database is updated directly in real time. So this has greatly reduced confusion and nearly eliminated all physical paperwork for the office. So a couple shout outs for interesting things people are doing around the SCA. Aidenbelt hosted a demo at the Phoenix Fan Fusion. And to ensure safety for participants and do demos of fighting, they created a cage, like a big metal mesh cage, in order to do the fighting in and maintain those safety barriers. So I thought that was a very great approach to make sure it was done safely in a crowded convention. And we had several SCA equestrians actually fly out and compete in an international jousting tournament in Germany in front of a castle. And I've included some pictures in my reports this time, so you may share in that joy. For injuries, in summary, we had 16 reported injuries, 6 possible concussions, 2 head injuries, and 1 contact issue, which was a slight decrease from last quarter. We did, however, see a rise in head and neck injuries due to hard thrusts to the face. So we are including that in our discussions with all the Kingdom R Marshals this time to keep an eye on that. And a standard injury report, an online standard injury report form is in process. So we're working with the SCA IT staff to try and make that a reality. In general, martial activities continue to be on the rise. Some kingdoms have reported calibration creep, while other kingdoms are reporting improved calibration and discussion. So we're trying to help spread those best practices. Discussions on potential rule changes are going well. The access to our collected injury data is being helpful to the KEMs to help those discussions. Provided in my report, details from each of the martial areas and the focus of time. I will let you read that and not go over it in detail. Just a quick update on the projects, the rules modernization, that's going well. We came up with a good outline and approach that we liked, and then we spread it to a couple more areas. So we are currently trying to use this common approach and format to equestrian, target archery, armored combat, and cut and thrust, which actually brought in some new additional highlights that we wanted to change. So as soon as we get those 4 drafts done, we'll roll them out to the Kingdom R Marshals for review to see if they like the new layout and the new approach. And if any board members are interested in seeing what we're doing, we'd be happy to allow them a peek too. I already covered the experimental programs. All the programs are going well. Updates are included in both in this report, and I have the online portal where kingdoms can check to see the latest on the experimental programs and the harness spectrum. Overall, that's it. Oh, I do want to mention that we do have some upcoming positions. So this fall, the Deputy Society Marshal for Rapier and Equestrian will be open. My thanks to those 2 deputies for staying on for an additional 2 years to help with a smooth transition. So we'll make job ads and get those posted. Also, the deputy for target archery is looking for a deputy. So that ad will be posted soon also. And that concludes my report from the Marshalate.
Excellent. Thank you, Melissa. That is the report of the Society Marshal as presented to the board. Are there any questions or comments from the directors for Melissa? There being none, by consensus and without objection, the report of the Society Marshal is also gratefully accepted. That will bring us to item G, the Society Minister for Arts and Sciences, Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greetings unto the board and members of the board. Herein contains the second quarter report for the Society Minister of Arts and Sciences. This covers March 1st through May 31st. Requested board actions, none. Policy interpretations, none. New policies, none. Commendations. Thank you to Bridget for scrolling those during the break. It really expedites my report. Going on to the general status report. During the second quarter of 2024, Kingdoms enjoyed successful universities, Kingdoms Arts and Sciences fairs and festivals, championships, competitions, collegia, golf course classes, competitions and displays, and smaller local events, including a new ANS themed events and display opportunities. Kingdoms have been looking ahead, planning and preparing for Lily's War, Penzic, Battlemore, and other summer events. Plans are already in progress for fall and winter arts and sciences events and activities. The Kingdom Ministers of Arts and Sciences from the Gulf Wars Treaty Kingdoms are actively working together to communicate ideas, improvements, and expectations. Several gentles are involved in the planning for the Known World Dance and Music Symposium to be hosted by Middle Kingdom. That actually was a couple of weekends ago. We're still waiting for the report back from that. The health of the arts and sciences continues to improve overall. However, finding volunteers at the local level and finding suitable event sites continues to be a challenge in many areas. A challenge consistently noted by Kingdoms involved finding sites that will allow for brewing to be included in arts and sciences displays and competitions. This seems to be exacerbated by changing local alcohol regulations and site insurance requirements. A new development within the arts and sciences community is very positive. The increase in non-judged interactive display with documentation opportunities. These are providing much more positive, happy, and nurturing experience for the many active artisans who are hesitant to enter judged competitions. For the publishable summary, the Society for Creative Anachronism continues to fulfill its mission to research and recreate the arts, sciences, and skills of the pre-17th century world. The second quarter has seen well-attended in-person activities, including Gulf Wars Arts and Sciences classes, competitions, and displays, workshops, several local and Kingdom champion competitions. Successful online and hybrid arts and sciences activities, including universities and classes, have continued. Kingdom and local officers successfully continue to update the ways in which we do arts and sciences activities, including verbal documentation, non-judge displays, and interactive display opportunities. The arts and sciences populace in general seems to be enjoying and benefiting from these increased opportunities for display and discussion in a non-competitive format. The Society Minister of Arts and Sciences has an official Facebook presence. This page allows members to receive information about arts and sciences activities throughout the known world and encourages them to share their own projects, promote local artisans, and connect with others who share their interests. Recently, the populace were invited to focus on special arts and sciences gifts made for or given by others. The skill, love, and generosity displayed in these gifts was astounding. Next, we enjoy sharing current or recent projects. As the Society officer, I continue regular outreach through Kingdom officers to help encourage and support officers from Kingdom level all the way through to the branch officers. In my report, there's included a brief known world summary for each kingdom. I'll let you read that at your leisure. Several notable statistics. Total reported warrants for the Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences are 489. There are approximately 25.8 warrants per kingdom. The Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences self-evaluation for their office is 7.9, and the self-evaluation for their arts and sciences in their respective kingdoms is 8.3, which is the highest in a year for the second consecutive quarter. 32 laurels were elevated in the last quarter with an average of 1.78 per kingdom. For second quarter travel, I attended Gulf Wars where I held a brief meet and greet for Society Ministers of Arts and Sciences. Thank you, and this concludes my second quarter report for the Society Minister of Arts and Sciences.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That is the report of the Society Minister of Arts and Sciences as presented to the board. Are there any questions for the Society Minister for ANS? In that case, by consensus and without objection, the report of the Society Minister of Arts and Sciences is also gratefully accepted. This brings us to item H, the report of the Society Chatelaine.
Mr. Chairman, she messaged me that she was caught at work. She's no longer under my office, but she asked me if I could present her report. So if the board has no objection, I don't think she has an ombudsman yet. That probably should be dealt with at some point, but
We'll take care of that.
okay.
Thank you.
So let's see, she has no requested board actions. Currently, no policy interpretations, no new policies. Her commendations aren't really, they're about the Known World Newcomers Symposium, so I'm going to go ahead and read that paragraph. I am excited for the upcoming Known World Newcomers Symposium toward the end of the year, being hosted by the Kingdom of Callantyr and run by their Kingdom Chatelain, Lord Otter. Requests for classes have gone out, and as of our last discussion on the topic, the team meetings for planning and logistics are going great. Because she didn't cover that in her publishable summary. I can really talk. Publishable summary. Greetings, Known World. I am so incredibly proud of all the hard work that your Kingdom's chatelains and hospitalers are doing, not only to welcome our newcomers to their new SCA family, but to welcome back returning members and those transferred or moved to a new kingdom. It is in this effort that I want to send special commendation. It's the boots on the ground officers who are making the SCA dream happen. You are seen, you are heard, and I am so proud of all the hard work you are putting in on behalf of your kingdoms and your populace. Thank you. Now that Gulf Wars has concluded and a great time was had by everyone, let's turn our attention towards the upcoming summer activities, which include magnificent tournaments, exciting demos, and of course the big events like Penzic. Let's all remember that while we are having fun, keep an eye out for our newcomer friends who might be shy or unsure of how to get involved. Please extend your hands of welcome and friendship, because you are literally meeting the future of your kingdom and the future of the SCA. You're doing great. You've got this. Keep being awesome. And that is the end of her publishable summary.
That is the report as presented by the Society Central from the Society Chatelain. Are there any questions from the directors on the report as presented? There being none, by consensus and without objection, the report of the Society Central the Society Chatelain is gratefully accepted. That concludes our standard agenda items. Leslie, are you, if you are ready and in a position to, I think are some the outcomes from the executive session that need to be read into the minutes.
I can certainly go through those unless you want to give people a 5-minute break, but I'm good to go now.
I'm seeing some indication from the directors that a few minutes break would be welcome. It is currently 3:43 Central Time, according to the clocks here. Let's say 3:50, 7 minutes or so, and we will recess until then. Okay, we stand in recess. Okay, and we are ready to resume the meeting. Returning once again, Leslie, if you're ready to do so, I think we can go through the outcomes from the executive session to be read into the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, these are the items that took place during your executive session. John Bojanowski, directors Jennifer Krochmal, Megan O'Shea, and Katie Shepard recused themselves from discussion of or voting on this matter. Motion by Gabrielle Fisher to revoke the membership of and deny participation to John Bojanowski, effective immediately. Second by Pug Bainter. In favor, Pug Bainter, Krista Capps, Gabrielle Fisher. Opposed, none. Recused, Jennifer Krochmal, Megan O'Shea, Katie Shepard. Chair Mark Falcon exercised his option to vote and did so in favor of the motion. Motion carried. Ryan Davidson, Director, KT Shepard, recused himself from discussion of or voting on this matter. Motion by Jennifer Krochmal to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Ryan Davidson, effective immediately. Second by Krista Capps, opposed none, recused KT Shepard, motion carried. Motion by KT Shepard, Stephen Gunther, motion by KT Shepard to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Stephen Gunther, effective immediately. Second by Krista Capps, opposed none, motion carried. Tyler Marshall, motion by Jennifer Krochmal to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Tyler Marshall, effective immediately. second by Gabrielle Fisher, opposed none, motion carried. Connor Mulcahy, motion by Pug Bainter to revoke the membership of and deny participation to Connor Mulcahy, effective immediately, second by KT Shepherd. Opposed none, motion carried. Society Seneschal updates. The report of the Society Seneschal was accepted as presented. Legal updates. The report of in-house counsel was accepted as presented. East Kingdom Crown experiment handled under item 4B. Subsidiaries for July 21st, 2024, action by verbal consent. All actions for the subsidiaries of the Society for Creative Anachronism, Inc. are accepted by consensus. Director resignation acknowledgement. By consensus, the resignation of Director Jennifer Krochmal from seat C for the Board of Directors is accepted, effective at the close of the July 21st, 2024 quarterly meeting. By consensus, Jonathan Foster is recognized as assuming seat C for the Board of Directors, effective at the close of the July 21st, 2024 quarterly meeting. Chair assignment. By consensus, no action was taken. Vice Chair assignment. By consensus, no action was taken. Ombudsman assignments. Chair Mark Falcon. President, Society Seneschal, Corporate Office, Executive Assistant, Financial Officer, Chatelaine. Vice Chair, Gabrielle Fisher. Board Recruiting, Avacol, Drachenwald, Locac. Director, Pug Bainter. DEIB, Harold's, Ethelmark, East, Glen Aubin, Trimaris. Krista Capps. Aidenveld, Atlantia, Middle, Eldemere. Jonathan Foster. Information Technology, including Webmaster and Webmaster, Callantyre Outlands, Megan O'Shea, ANS, Anstiora, Artemisia, Meridies, and Publications, including TICA and Chronicler, KT Shepherd, Ontier, Kaid, North Shield, West, and Marshall. Warrant expirations. The following upcoming warrant expirations were noted and returned to the appropriate officers for further work. Exchequer, October 31st, 2024. Chronicler, December 31st, 2024. Minister of Arts and Sciences, December 31st, 2024. Christian Conrad Claus. Motion by Jennifer Krochmal to direct the Society Seneschal to issue a temporary removal from participation in the Society to Christian Conrad Claus, and to further direct the Society Seneschal to begin an investigation into possible sanctions up to and including revocation of membership and denial of participation, effective immediately. Second by KT Shepherd, opposed none, motion carried. That concludes your minutes for your executive session.
Excellent, and thank you very much, Leslie. Couple of things before we entertain an adjournment. One, of course, I'll go around the room, metaphorically speaking, if there are other comments to be made or whatnot from the directors. But I do want to note for the membership that we do have a director whose term is up and will be leaving the board today. I'm going to read from what I wrote because I'm not eloquent without pen and paper and plenty of time. It is with deep appreciation and heartfelt gratitude that we recognize Jennifer Krochmal for her outstanding service to the society and to the board of directors over the past 4 years. Jennifer's dedication to this mission and our organization has been a beacon of strength and resilience in trying circumstances, especially during the challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic. Her guidance, her innovative approaches sometimes to issues, and her overall stewardship have ensured that our organization not only navigated those unprecedented circumstances, but ultimately emerged stronger and more united as a result. And that is no small feat for an organization like ours operating in the modern times. Jennifer's unwavering commitment, thoughtful leadership, and tireless effort have made a profound impact on our community and our society. We are truly grateful for her exceptional contributions and the positive direction that she's provided while she's been on the board. Thank you, Jennifer, for your remarkable service and for being a steadfast pillar of support and inspiration for the Society for Creative Anachronism. And I'll pause there so that she can blush a little bit more, and so that if anybody else wants to add to that they have the opportunity to do so. Shep.
If I can do this without getting too emotional. Jennifer, years ago when I joined this group, you and I, you helped me. You helped me learn how to do this job. Over the years, we've argued, we've vehemently opposed each other, and then loved each other at the end. We violently agreed with each other, and argued, and realized halfway through the argument that we were actually agreeing with each other. I appreciate you to no end. Thank you so much for everything you've done for this organization, everything you've done for me. You're leaving us, but not forgotten. And hope you enjoy some time at Penzic without having to worry about or being concerned about having to go to a situation where you might feel a little uncomfortable sometimes, and you don't have to do that anymore. It's all good. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. We also there's still a little bit of time, but since we seem to be running with the theme, I also wanted to take this opportunity to recognize another long-standing and long-serving servant, if you will, a member of the corporate officer for the society. Liz Schreier, today we celebrate and extend our deepest gratitude to you. You are stepping down soon from your role as the Vice President for Operations for the Society. Throughout your tenure, and especially during the challenging times of COVID, you have demonstrated unwavering dedication, resilience, and leadership in a office that is sometimes difficult to define, and certainly evolving as our society has evolved. And you have evolved with it and kept the office of the Seneschal in lockstep with the evolution of the organization in rough seas, to say it that way. Your guidance during the COVID epidemic was instrumental in navigating our society through those uncharted waters, ensuring continuity and support for our community. Your commitment to your role has left an indelible mark on our organization, and the legacy that you will leave when you ultimately pass this office to Stacy, that legacy of excellence will continue to inspire us all by your excellent example. So thank you very much, Liz, for your remarkable service and for leading with grace and fortitude. And we wish you all the best in your endeavors as you quote unquote go back into civilian life, if you will, within the SCA, and no doubt get a bit more sleep and have to write a few less emails. And as with before, I'll pause there for if there are any other questions or comments from other directors on Liz, on Jennifer, or on anything else. Otherwise, we will go ahead, Gabe.
I was just going to ask if the directors could stay on briefly at the end of things so we can just get a brief update on something.
Yep, we also will be reviewing the submitted questions and doing some Q&A as well. So if the directors could stay not only for the Q&A, but perhaps a bit far beyond, so that we can get the updates that you're referring to, Gabe. Okay, Jennifer?
I just want to thank all of you. I've never worked with a more dedicated group of people, both all the officers, board members. If any of you out there have any doubts about any of these people, their love and their dedication to this organization, I can't stress enough just how amazing they all are. It's a really hard job. All of them are working so hard, and if you have any interest in helping this society, please, put yourself in as a nomination to the board. Apply to be an officer. We need good people to make this organization continue. And I want to thank you all for allowing me the privilege to serve with you all. It's been a hard experience, but I have learned so much, and I've done the very best job that I could do. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Are there any other questions, comments, et cetera, from the board or the corporate officers? All right. Is Bridget with us? Excellent.
Mr. Chair, we have no questions from people at this time, but if you want to close the meeting and then open the floor for questions, you have that option.
Excellent. In that case, albeit we are virtual at the moment, but I will enact a tradition from the past and bring it back into current practice. Since this is the last meeting for Director Krochmal, I will exercise my authority to do so and pass the gavel for the meeting to Director Krochmal as we, ultimately seek to close the meeting.
Hearing closes the quarterly meeting of the
You might need to make you might need to ask for a motion for that.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chairwoman, I move that we close the July 2024 meeting of the Board of Directors.
And we have a second from Krista, Director Katz. Can I see a show of hands for those who agree to close this meeting? Any opposed? No opposition. The motion passes. Hearing closes the meeting of the Board of Directors.
Thank you, Jennifer.